Hey, folks! Welcome to a very early, for me at least, stream. And the reason is Liz Bigham. I listened in because I had to do a lot of things yesterday afternoon, your time. And then I went to sleep because I was tired. And then early this morning, I listened into parts of Liz Bigham's testimony. And I decided, yeah, I'm getting home early from work. I need this Faster clock recorded. And then I thought, no, it's going to be a live stream. So this will be, let's just hope that I can keep my monetization on this. Because if you don't know who Liz Bigham is, that is the lead detective in this case, who we heard about now for over a week. How she helped Chris Milton to come up with a new story after his prior one fell apart. And it seems like she's proud of it. And of course, the Judge Lott, is the same as she's been. And hence the suggestive thumbnail to this stream. Because each hour of this damn trial, the more I get convinced there's old habits die hard in the South, apparently, especially in and around Clark County, Georgia. Igor, Liz Bigham is the female version of Michael Proctor. But yes and no. Yes, in that she is equally incompetent. No, as in she doesn't care. I mean, if this stuff that she has done if that had been, at least Michael Proctor felt shame while reading and apologized. Well, he didn't mean it, but Liz Bigham is proud of what she's done. Proud. Because in her mind, it seems like if there's any way I can blame a black guy, I will. Just look at this case and the evidence that clearly speaks towards Chris Milton. And she helped him construct more or less a new alibi. But enough of this. We are now a few minutes in. Hopefully my monetization is still on. Let's see here. Yep, still on. So here we go. Yeah.
Mr. Cruz, cross-examination.
And yes, we are going directly for cross-examination because what the state says I don't really care about at this point in time.
Good afternoon, Agent Howell.
Bigham.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, Agent Bigham. Please forgive me. You have opportunity to sit in the courtroom during the entirety of this trial. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, as lead detective, she sat in on the entire trial. She has watched everybody's testimony, good and bad. She also probably noticed, hey, if I screw up, the judge will take care of it.
And you've had the opportunity to hear everyone's testimony?
Yes.
You've had the opportunity to hear my opening. Is that right?
Yes.
The state's opening.
Yes.
Mr. Melton testify.
Yes.
Ashley P.B. Hall testify, as well as Valerie Lowe.
Yes.
On Sunday, May 6, 2024, you and Mr. Howell interviewed Chris Milton. Is that right?
I believe it was Sunday, May 5th.
Thank you for that. So Sunday, May 5th, you interviewed Mr. Howell. Excuse me. I am sorry.
Mr. Melton.
Mr. Melton, please forgive me. And you met with them at the Walton County Sheriff's Office. Is that correct?
Yes, it was one of their satellite precincts.
And you knew during the interview, Chris volunteered that the longest he had gone without seeing Tara before her death, it was 10 days because of work. Is that right?
That's what he indicated initially in the interview before we helped refresh his recollection.
That is what he said until we helped him refresh his recollection. That's her first answer. We helped him refresh his recollection. I can promise you, if I ever heard something similar in one of my cases, I believe the American is in 1983. What she did is help create a new alibi. Where defense attorney will get into much of this stuff. I mean, his question here was quite solid up until you interviewed him. He has said nothing but 10 days.
Based on his original statements that were given immediately after the homicide.
And you asked him whether Tara slept at his parents' house the Saturday before her death. Is that correct?
I believe I did.
And Chris told you for a second time, no, I hadn't seen her for like 10 days beforehand or something.
Yes, we went back and forth through the 10 days and the 5 days and what was originally stated and whatnot.
Sure. And during your conversation, you told Chris, I don't have it on this, but I think what you said is that she slept at your parents' house the Saturday night before, and then she left Sunday morning, and that was the last time you saw her. Do you recall making that statement to Mr. Melton?
I don't recall that specifically. I'm not sure what the I don't have it on this is.
Can you repeat that for me?
I don't recall specifically making that statement. I can reference my summary if you'd like, but I don't understand the part where you said I don't have it on this. I'm not sure what I was referencing during the interview.
Sure, and I'll simplify the question. You recall telling Chris that he previously said that Ms. Baker slept at his parents' house the Saturday before her death.
Can I reference my summary?
Of course.
To verify that?
Of course.
As with Mr. Milton, she has heard everything. She was in. I can bet good money. She has listened to every tape multiple times in preparation. Yeah, I don't know why the subtitles are
So I have
so far behind.
that I referenced the original interviews with him and that he told law enforcement back then that he last saw Miss Baker the Sunday prior to her death.
Can you repeat that?
I referenced my notes that I must have written myself some notes that I had back then during that interview. And I relayed to him that he told law enforcement that he last saw Miss Baker the Sunday prior to her death. And I do believe, yes, that was at the parents' house, his parents' house.
And Mr. Melton's response to you was, that doesn't sound right either. Is that correct?
I don't recall if that was his specific response, but he kept going back to the 10 days. He kept thinking in his head it was 10 days.
He has for 24 years, up until you coached him, he has said nothing but 10 days.
Multiple times, is that correct?
Yes.
And can we agree that Mr. Melton told you at least 3 times that the last time he saw Miss Baker was 10 days before her death?
I don't remember how many times he said it, but I do know we had multiple conversations about it.
Sure. Would hearing your audio recording refresh your recollection?
Sure.
Court's indulgence? I'll let the record reflect that I'm going to refresh Agent Bigham's recollection from minute mark 14:57. Excuse me, 1 hour, 14 minutes, 57 seconds through.
Yeah. Hi, Kiana. This whole trial has been about clearing Chris. One would think it would be about proving Faust was at the scene of the crime. Yeah, you would think. But from not yesterday, Monday, I believe it is, when we listened to the state and the defense arguing before the court that the state will enter into evidence a place they claim Faust resided at the time of the murder, which the defense can prove is false. Utterly, utterly false. And the judge denied the defense the ability to counter the state's fake evidence. So not only do they provide Chris Milton with a defense, they manufacture evidence against Mr. Faust.
Through 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 6 seconds. And just to make sure it's clear, what we're looking for here is Mr. Melton telling you 3 times that he hadn't seen Miss Baker for 10 days prior to her death. Is that fair?
Yes. Can we move this? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, as per usual, they have some issues with the technology.
So you'd agree within that timestamp that was previously stated, you have heard Mr. Milton state at least once that he hadn't seen Ms. Baker for 10 days.
Yes.
Okay.
And they are forcing her to listen to what she actually said.
Last time and we've heard a second time that Mr. Milton puts the last time he's seen Ms. Baker at least 10 days before her death.
Yes, he states it's the weekend before.
The weekend before her death.
Before, yes.
Okay. All right, and within that 2-minute and 8-second time span, Mr. Milton has said at least 3 times that he has seen Ms. Baker for the last time 10 days prior to her death.
Yes.
And for the third time, you told Chris that you last saw her Sunday morning when she left. Do you recall making that statement?
Yes, based on the previous interviews.
Okay.
Why? Why was it so important for you to have to have Chris Milton change his story? Even if let's, for the sake of argument, say, hey, it's true. Yeah, but then it only tells you, wow, he changed his mind. Why was he lying about having his girlfriend at his house? Is it because there's no evidence whatsoever, not from the parents, not from Chris, not from neighbors, nothing that says that she spent the weekend at his house? And remember, folks, we have heard Chris Milton himself say he lived with his parents on weekdays. He lived in his apartment on weekends. So why would he all of a sudden have her there at his parents' house during the weekend? Miss Bigham, why?
But you're reminding him that previously he stated that he saw Tara the weekend before her death. Is that right?
Yes, we were refreshing his recollection.
Okay. And Mr. Milton told you a fourth time that it had been 10 days since he last saw Ms. Baker. Is that correct?
I don't recall if he said it a fourth time.
Let the record reflect that I'm refreshing Agent Bigham's Would hearing the recording refresh your recollection? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do number 4 and 5, okay?
Okay.
So let the record reflect that I am playing minute mark 1 hour.
Now, here is how you can spot a liar. She was refreshed about him saying it a third time. At that point in time, with her clear recollection, she would know it was more much more than 3 times.
$20 minutes and 10 seconds to 1 hour, 21 minutes and 57 seconds, Your Honor. Okay, you've heard for a fourth time, Mr. Milton state that he believes it was the weekend before her death. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so he told you at this point at least 5 times that he had not seen Miss Baker for 10 days prior to her death.
Yes.
And this is after you've told him multiple times, or repeated to him multiple times, what he told law enforcement in 2001. Is that right?
Yes. I think he was processing. We were kind of going back and forth, like he was processing.
Why are you making excuses for him? Or are you making excuses for yourself? Making excuses for, hey, I really, really want to set up this black guy. And in order to do that, I have to make the white guy seem innocent.
You know, what he recalled and the fact that it's 24 years later at that point. So.
You then asked Chris, and I believe this is the 5th time you asked Chris, so was there ever a time in those 10 days, leading up until her death, that y'all just had a quick booty call or met up real fast or anything like that? Do you recall asking that question? And for the 6th time, Mr. Melton stated that he had not seen Miss Baker within 10 days of her death.
Said that he had not been with her, I believe, the week of her death.
Mr. Melton's response was not no.
I don't recall specifically, but I remember the further we got into it, I recalled that he was saying, because we were going down the path of, did you see her at any point for a booty call the week of her death? We were trying to figure out and narrow that timeline, and he said no.
Let me make sure I'm clear on my question. The question that you asked him was there any time within that 10-day window that he met up with Miss Baker for a booty call? Would you agree on that?
I don't remember saying the 10 days. If I did, that's fine.
Sure. Would hearing the recording refresh your recollection?
Here's the thing, she knows it's there, but somehow she thinks, oh, if I can't remember. Yeah, this wasn't 24 years ago for her. was a year and a half ago.
Yes, I did state that it was in the 10 days. Had y'all had a booty call or met up real quick or anything like that?
And he said no.
And he said no.
Okay, so now we're at time number 6 that Chris Milton has told you that he has not seen Miss Baker 10 days within her death. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you would agree that you told Chris that you know that he's been dishonest with police for 23 years.
I don't remember telling Chris he had lied to police for 23 years.
Do you recall telling Chris, I need you to be 150% honest with me?
Yes.
Okay. And you explained, I know that what I'm about to ask you is not what has been said for 23 years, and that may hinder you from wanting to be honest with me. Do you recall making that statement?
Something along those lines, yes.
And you then told Chris, but we're here because there's been some evidence that's come up that you can't really argue and say, I was with her 10 days prior. Do you recall making that statement?
Yes, something along.
Why the flaming fuck would you tell a person who has lied to the investigators for over 2 decades? Why would you even give him that information? Reverse roles here. Can you imagine this happening with Mr. Faust? That this is how they conducted that interview? Hell no.
Along those lines.
And then you shared with Chris, there's been some DNA that's come back to you. Is that fair?
Yes.
And this was before you told him. So what that leads us to believe is that perhaps you were with her at some point sexually, much closer to her death, and this is the language I emphasize, than has ever been let on. Do you recall making that statement?
Not specifically, but I do remember having that conversation with him.
Would hearing the recording of your statement refresh your recollection?
Sure.
Yeah, apparently this is Georgia's cold case master. If this is how she handles cold cases, hell no.
I asked that question just to make sure the record is clear. So you told Mr. Melton, so what that leads us to believe is that perhaps you were with her at some point sexually, much closer to her death, and I emphasize this language, than has ever been let on. Is that correct?
Yes.
So when you said earlier that from earlier, he stated, well, weekend. Well, that can't be true then. Much earlier. Well, unless she's fishing for him saying a Tuesday, Wednesday booty call.
And at the time of the interview, you received a DNA report on May 2nd, 2024. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay. And the interview with Mr. Melton was May 5th, 2024. Is that right?
Yes.
And the reason you knew Mr. Melton's DNA was present in her mouth is from the May 2nd, 2024 DNA report. Is that correct?
Between the April 30th and the May 2nd reports, the swabs that the DNA had come back to were labeled oral. So that's what we believed at that point.
Sure.
Remember that, folks. Up until that point, they believed they were oral swabs.
But the report from May 2nd also stated that Mr. Melton's DNA was present in Ms. Baker's anus as well. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you were aware as the lead investigator in this case that Ms. Baker had been sexually assaulted. Is that fair?
Yes.
And somehow, instead of, hey, Chris Milton has lied to us. His DNA is in the graped area. Instead of making that connection, Well, they had a black guy too. Not in the raped area. And then somehow they got to, no, Milton, he's the boyfriend. Boyfriends only have consensual sex. There is no case in Georgia history. No, none whatsoever. Case in Georgia history where a boyfriend has sexually assaulted the girlfriend. That's the argument from her, not me. That is the only reason for her to say it can't be Chris Milton.
And you would agree that DNA lasts in the mouth for up to 12 hours. Is that correct?
I can't speak to that. I'm not a scientist. I have an understanding in what I was told, generally what can occur, but I can't speak to specifics about how long DNA lasts in someone's mouth.
But you told Mr. Melton that it lasts for 2 to 3 days. Is that right?
I don't remember specifically what I told him. I'm not arguing with you about it. I just don't remember specifically what I told him. But I do know that we had some information about how long it could last.
But we know it wasn't 10 days. Is that
correct?
So they had to have. Oh, you have at most a 24-hour window. 6 days doesn't cut it, especially if his liquid DNA is in her raped area. Yeah, in the vagina, a lot longer. 3 to 5 days. After 5 days is extremely rare. In the backdoor area, it's, let's just say, the backdoor area is designed for removal only. The front door area is designed to keep things in. The mouth area is self-cleaning.
That was not the information we had at the time. We did get information later.
And we could also agree that DNA doesn't last in the mouth 5 days.
I'm not going to speculate to that. I'm not a scientist. I don't know.
That's fair. But we did know Mr. Melton's DNA was in her mouth.
No, Mr. Faust's DNA was in her mouth.
Okay, so is your testimony here?
You're talking about at that point?
Correct.
Oh, at that point, we believe that well, we knew it was on the oral swabs or a pack of swabs that was labeled oral at that time. And yes, that's what we believed at that point.
Fair. And you have access to the GBI's DNA experts. Is that right?
Yes.
So they could tell you, hey, either this should be here or this should not be here. Is that correct?
As far as what?
How long DNA lasts?
Yes, generally.
Now, despite this, you assured Chris, Jeremy and I are not here because we think you killed Tara at all. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you tell Chris that his DNA was in a place that makes sense for you two, but doesn't make sense for bad guy.
Yes, because he was her boyfriend.
There it is. Told you. In her mind, boyfriends cannot be rapists. In her mind. It's unheard of. This level of stupidity, and no, it's not stupidity. It is a testimony of convenience. Because if the sock was on the other foot, let's assume Mr. Milton was black. I don't think it would have mattered to her if it was boyfriend or not. she would have gone for the evidence. And the evidence says that Milton raped Tara within 12 hours of her death.
And bad guys, Mr. Faust.
That's who was identified through the CODIS match.
And just to make sure, you didn't know Ms. Baker, is that correct?
No.
And you tell Chris, we have bad guys evidence there, but we got to separate those two. Do you recall making that statement?
Something along those lines, yes.
And it is fair to say, despite acknowledging that Chris lied for 23 years, you were asking Chris to help you explain away his DNA to pin Ms. Baker's death on Mr. Faust.
I don't believe that Chris lied for 23 years. I reviewed his statements that were given the day of Tara's death or murder and 2 days later. And those statements were consistent and made more sense, especially with the new evidence that they had sex 5 days or so prior to her death.
6 days. 6 days. Shit, fuck. 6 days. And still, DNA does not survive in the back door that long. And I highly doubt the survival rate of liquid DNA improves if it, as the prosecution claims, leaks from front door to back door. Instead of doing what a proper investigator should have done, treat it as inconsistent statement that why is this guy lying to us? You decided to help him.
Sure. So my question is this. If you don't think he was being dishonest, why would you make the statement so that leads us to believe that you were with her at some point sexually much closer to her death than ever has been let on?
Because when we were interviewing Mr. Melton, we obviously had this new information from the crime lab, and we're under the impression that it shouldn't last more than a few days or somewhere in that vicinity. At that point, we kind of were going with the information we had on that day at that point. Of course, that can change once evidence is processed and more things are done to it.
Objection narrative, Your Honor.
Overruled. So we were going with what we had at that moment, and now I've totally forgotten your question.
What you had at that moment in time was Milton's liquid DNA in the back door, graped back door, and in her mouth. Which puts him at the scene not 6 days before, not 5 days before, not 3, 2, not maybe 1 day before, more probable within a 12-hour span. That's all you had.
I'm so sorry.
Sure.
Can you repeat it?
My question was that you told Mr. Melton that, court's indulgence. I want to make sure I give you the proper question. But you told Mr. Melton that that DNA evidence led you all to believe that he had been with Miss Baker some point sexually, much closer to her death than has ever been let on. Is that right?
That's right. Thank you. So at that point, we're going with the information that we had in the moment from the crime lab reports, speaking with the crime lab personnel, etc. And we were re-interviewing Mr. Melton to obviously just go over the statement and go through all the things again, but also to ensure that there was nothing we were missing. Is there some reason that, he did have a booty call or go meet her for a quick quick meetup or anything like that had just never come out before. And we were trying to explain why, or this evidence and why it was there. I mean, obviously we knew that's her boyfriend. It should be there, but we were trying to get the timeline down.
So you take his statement after he reminded you for the 7th fucking time. Nope, 10 days. 10 days. Well, we have to get you closer in time. Nope, 10 days. All right. Off you go. We need to look at all the evidence. Yeah, and her smiling and giggling, it's a game for her. She sits there, hey, I solved this. I found a black guy to blame. You can't do anything about it. Ma'am, you are not Jodie Foster in The Silence of the Lambs. You're barely in a segment of dueling banjos.
So, at this point, we agree that you had Mr. Melton's DNA in Ms. Baker's mouth and her anus. Is that fair?
Are you speaking of that day?
Correct.
At that moment, that was the information we believe because both of the packages were labeled oral.
And during your interview on May 5th with Mr. Melton, Mr. Melton told you that him and Tara did not engage in anal sex. Is that correct?
That's true.
So you had to invent something stupid to explain it. I think it's good. Now, why do that damn foldy paper thingy? Why does it do that? It is to keep the words in the mind of the jurors. He repeats, he writes down, and every time he writes down, they're reading all of it. I would suspect during closing argument, he will have everything compiled, showing that Mr. Milton's alibi is worth jack shit because there is literally no evidence of Mr. Milton being a subcontractor. There's literally no evidence of his friend being an employee of his. There's literally no physical evidence of him being anything but a day laborer. Literally nothing. Not even some of the places he claimed he went to didn't exist. There's no actual evidence some of those places existed in 2001. He doesn't have any pay stubs. Nothing whatsoever except the word of his high school friend and from his dad, interviewed 4 months later.
And we also had Mr. Faust's DNA in her mouth. Is that right?
That's true.
So at this point, we can agree that the evidence against Mr. Faust at this time that you have is DNA in Ms. Baker's mouth.
No, at the time they had processed the other set of oral swabs and that came back with Mr. Faust as well.
So my question is, the evidence that you had against Mr. Faust is DNA in Ms. Baker's mouth. Is that right?
At that moment.
And at that same moment, we had Mr. Melton's DNA in her mouth. Is that right?
Yes.
DNA in her anus. Is that right?
Yes.
And also a statement from Mr. Melton that him and Ms. Baker did not engage in anal sex. Is that right?
That's right.
And you didn't connect the dots.
And just for the purposes of this, Mr. Melton was not arrested at his May 5th interview. Is that right?
No.
Okay. You did not obtain warrants from Mr. Melton based on this information. Is that correct?
No, we would have no reason to.
You had no reason to, except that his DNA is in the graped area. But you have a black guy to blame. So you went with black guy.
But you explicitly told, or would you agree that you explicitly told Mr. Melton, well, I think Jeremy would agree with this. I don't want to speak for him, but like we are here to try to separate you from the killer. Is that fair?
Probably something along those lines.
Okay. And you were speaking again of Mr. Faust.
At that point, that was the other information we had.
Okay. Based solely on his DNA in her mouth.
No, at that point, I mean, that was what, 5 days or so? And we had already been working on and reviewing the investigation again. We had Mr. Faust's name 5 days prior to the interview with Mr. Melton.
Let me ask you this, because it's not a trick question. I'm not trying to trip you up or anything. When we're talking about physical evidence, the only physical evidence you had connecting Mr. Faust with Miss Baker is Mr. Faust's DNA in Miss Baker's mouth.
Yes.
Yeah. An ethical investigator would have said, okay, we have mouth. That's suspicious. We have mouth and back door, the graped area. Who do we take out a warrant on? And they didn't choose the guy whose DNA was in the graped area.
But on this May 5th interview, although we have more physical evidence involving Mr. Melton, you tell Mr. Melton you want to separate him from Mr. Faust. Okay?
Right.
We've agreed on that.
Mr. Melton had an alibi.
That, and we know now that his alibi is shit. And even if you believe he has an alibi, you didn't even bother to check it out. Because you have a black guy. Let's go for the black guy.
You then asked Mr. Melton for the 6th time, so was there ever an instance closer to her death that you just went over and got a blowjob, that y'all met up real quick, just get a little quick rump out? Do you recall making that statement? Okay, and before he answers, you tell him, because 10 days before, there's not still going to be sperm. Like literally scientifically, it doesn't last in your mouth. Is that correct?
Or I said something like that.
Okay. So at this point, you aren't even interviewing Mr. Melton as a suspect. Is that fair?
No, he wasn't being interviewed as a suspect because he's had an alibi for 20-something years.
Who we now know is the word of Mr. Milton, the word of his friend, high school buddy, who there's no evidence whatsoever was working with or for Mr. Milton, and a statement 4 months later from Mr. Milton's dad, who is now deceased. That's it.
And you also made clear to Mr. Melton, but we have to separate you from the bad thing that happened and make sense of the thing that would be understandable and normal. Is that correct?
Something along those lines.
So can you explain to me how Mr. Faust's DNA being in Miss Baker's mouth and Mr. Melton's DNA being in Miss Baker's mouth and anus, although Mr. Melton stated they don't engage in anal sex, makes it understandable and normal? Can you explain that?
My understanding through speaking with the crime lab is that there's something called drainage.
No. Whoever at that crime lab who said, hey, maybe it's drainage, and then didn't follow up with, but that doesn't make sense either, because DNA doesn't survive in the backdoor part that long. Whoever was in that crime lab who said this should be fired and never work in a crime lab ever again.
And gravity, I mean, we all know what gravity is, but drainage, and that you can, that semen or sperm can drain down from the vagina to the anus, and that can be a possible way that it gets into an anus. And yes, while at that point, we still had 2 packs of oral swabs, we knew or had a belief that one of those was vaginal swabs. We just didn't know which one it was yet.
Let's talk about drainage.
How fucking convenient.
So we've established, at best, Mr. Milton says it's been 5 days since him and Ms. Baker had sex. Is that fair?
Yes.
And we would assume, I know you say that you don't know Ms. Baker, but Ms. Baker would take a bath every day. Is that right?
I don't know specifically, but my understanding from previous interviews is that she would shower in the mornings.
Okay, and that's daily, right?
I believe so.
Okay. So your position is, and correct me if I say it wrong, we know Ms. Baker was sexually assaulted anally. Is that right?
Yes.
We can agree that in the May 2nd, 2024 report, Mr. Milton's DNA profile is the only identifiable profile. Is that correct?
In the May 2nd report?
Correct.
No.
I would like you to look at the 5th paragraph on the first page of the May 2nd report from Dr. Ashley Hinkle, please.
I don't have it.
I have it for you.
I mean, I have notes regarding it, if that's
And I could give you the whole thing, or I could give you the pertinent page. Which one do you prefer?
what, either way.
I give you the whole thing.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. My understanding, Mr. Cruz hasn't said anything about refreshing recollection or anything along those lines. And it seems that he's asking Agent Bigham to testify off a report that she did not create. So I'm going to object.
This asswipe prosecutor with what's his face? The other idiot investigator from 2001. He had that investigator proffer a report he didn't write. Now all of a sudden it's objectionable to have her, the lead detective for the cold case, who presumably have read and proffered everything. Now all of a sudden, no, not allowed.
But on direct examination, Agent Bigham testified that she was aware of the DNA report from May 2nd, 2024. So she's already established her knowledge of same. I asked her if she was aware that Mr. Milton's DNA was the only identifiable DNA in Ms. Baker's anus, and her answer was, I believe, no, I do not recall that.
Oh, I don't.
Okay.
Correct me. Please correct me if I make a mistake.
Was that your answer?
Well, I'm sorry. I may have misunderstood you. I don't remember you specifying her anus. I thought you were talking in general about the DNA. But if you're specifically talking about the rectal swabs, then yes, you're absolutely right.
I'm going to let you re-ask. Let's do this since there's been an objection, but I think maybe this witness was confused by your question.
Sure.
If you'd like to ask the question again, you may do so.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Milton's DNA profile was the only identifiable DNA profile in Ms. Baker's anus.
Yes.
Okay. In the state's theory and law enforcement's theory of how he's the only DNA profile is that it was drainage.
That was a theory that was proposed to me,
Okay, that's a theory.
or just a way that it can happen.
A way to explain away Mr. Milton's DNA so you could focus on this. Is that right?
No, I don't think that's accurate.
The form of the question that's argumentative.
I'm going to sustain that objection.
Yes, ma'am. And you also told Chris that in order to separate him from Ms. Baker's murder, we got to figure out that timeline and clarify it, or it doesn't make any sense. Do you recall making that statement?
Something along those lines.
And you
her thought there should have been, okay, you're saying 10 days. That doesn't make sense. And then reevaluate and go back and check. We need to check this fucking alibi to see if it actually works out. Or if his alibi between 7:45 a.m. and 9 whatever a.m. is actually the time of death. Let's check with medical examiners. Could she have died earlier in the morning? Because if she did, if it is, I mean, they are already referencing a possibility of drainage. Yeah, why aren't you checking the possibility that what she was, but no, it was smoke inhalation. She was apparently still had some breath in her at the time of the fire. That doesn't say much about when she was brutally assaulted. Because if that was 6 a.m, then Mr. Milton's alibi doesn't exist.
You would agree that to a reasonable person, it could appear that you're asking for Chris Melton's help in pinning Ms. Baker's murder on Mr. Faust. Is that fair?
Object, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
I'm going to sustain that objection. I don't think it's a proper question. You may rephrase, Mr. Cruz.
Yes, ma'am. What you're trying to do, is it fair to say that you're trying to explain away why Mr. Melton's DNA was in Ms. Baker's mouth? Is that fair?
No, I'm trying to get an understanding of why it was in her mouth, because that's what we thought at that time.
Okay, so let me ask you this. We've already agreed, you and I are aware that Mr. Melton was aware that Ms. Baker was sexually assaulted. Is that right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Sure. We both are aware that Ms. Baker was sexually assaulted. Is that correct? You didn't find it odd when you told Mr. Melton about DNA in Ms. Baker's body. His response was, I'm taking in that there was something else in her, somebody else's stuff there too.
Mr. Melton during that time had, once we started getting into the specifics of the evidence that we had and what the questions we were asking him, he was starting to become kind of very distraught and almost just kind of like in shock. I remember talking about that with him. Like,
remember, she has been in the courtroom the entire trial. She can now explain away and make claims of how Chris acted in the interview, because it was not video recorded, it was only audio recorded.
I was in shock as much as you're in shock. You know, like, he was trying to process everything, and I took that sort of statement as him sort of processing everything that we were talking about.
Sure. And that's your interpretation of his statement.
That's my
I
interpretation.
should have shocked.
Okay. But after you made that,
Great point. Science is usually based on probabilities, not possibilities. What is the probability of the DNA draining compared to the probability the DNA was placed exactly where it was found?
after Mr. Melton made that statement, Chris tells you for a 7th time, like, as far as you know, the 10 days is stuck in my head. Is that correct?
Again, I think at that point he's sort of reeling and processing everything.
Yes, he is. He's starting to realize that the reason why you keep bugging him on it is because you want to set him free, while he is still stuck in his 24-year lie that he wasn't near her for 10 days prior to the crime. Only audio recording. I when it comes to 2001, it's only audio. I haven't heard anything about video recording. So maybe it's a too far assumption of me in that case.
And trying to kind of make sense of this information that he's now learned after 20-something years.
Yeah, he's learned after 24 years that, oh shit, I'm about to be caught. And then he realizes, oh, this dumb bitch is trying to give me an alibi. It only took him an hour.
Agent Bigham, this is your investigation. Is that correct?
Myself and Agent Howell.
Okay, but you are the lead investigator. Is that correct?
Sure.
And because of your work, this prosecution was brought against Mr. Faust. Is that correct?
Because of our work.
Sure. But you wouldn't want to do anything that would hurt your chances of convicting Mr. Faust. Is that right?
I just want to work a case to its proper conclusion and convict the right person.
Well, sure. And that's an excellent point. When we talk about convicting the right person, you would agree that when you obtained arrest warrants from Mr. Faust, the only evidence you had of his connection with Ms. Baker was DNA in Ms. Baker's mouth. Is that fair?
Yes, that was the only evidence we had of their connection.
Okay.
They had no other reason to be connected.
Sure, but physical evidence, just DNA in the mouth.
That's correct.
Okay. But for Chris Milton,
I apologize. At the time of arrest?
physical evidence, correct.
Yes.
But for Chris Milton, we've already established that we have DNA mouth, DNA anus, and a statement from Mr. Milton saying that they did not engage in anal sex. Is that right?
That's accurate.
But based on your determination, the right person to arrest is simply the person whose DNA is in her mouth.
It was Mr. Faust.
And Mr. Milton.
No, I'm talking, you said the right person to arrest. And I said
Sure.
Mr. Faust.
And Mr. Milton, because Mr. Milton's DNA was in her mouth as well. Is that right?
It was, but Mr. Milton had an alibi.
She's so stuck on this alibi thing, which we know is absolute horseshit. And you don't have more now. Faust's DNA was not in the graped area.
Something.
And you would agree that you told Mr. Milton you were shocked to learn that his DNA was present.
Yes, I believe I said something along those lines.
Okay, you explained to him, and in my thought, when I got this news, and I was about as shocked as you are right now, last week, you were a 23-year-old kid. You were being hammered by the effing cops that are treating you like S. You know.
That's her claim, that back January 19th and January 21st, her claim is that he was treated like shit by the law, by the then officers. Bitch, they put him in a hotel room. In a fucking hotel room. His interviews, I believe, combined less than 3 hours. No.
After you've just found out your girlfriend's been brutally murdered, is that correct?
Yes, I remember making those statements.
And then you continue. You stated, and you're terrified knowing, yeah, y'all had a booty call. You know, she got back from the library that night. You came up, she went down to have a booty call real quick. And you know, in your head, you're like, I was literally the last person with her.
That was an interview tactic, I guess, or technique, whatever you want to call it, that we were, or that I was using to just try to give him one more opportunity to let us know if something had occurred that week. Like just basically putting into context for him, like you were a kid and, you know, you were scared and the cops were going after you and things of
This is so stupid.
that nature, and just trying to give him an out to give us that information. But he stuck stuck strong to his statements that he was not with her that week at all.
And he also stuck strong to his statements that he hadn't seen her in 10 days as well. Is that correct?
By the end of the interview, we had come around and he agreed that with the prior information or information from his prior recordings that I had listened to, that he agreed that it was accurate, that he had had sex with her, or they may have had sex on that Sunday before she left his residence, which would.
You badgered him for over an hour until he finally said, yeah, okay, we had sex on the Sunday. Happy now? This is so stupid. And even with that, it does not explain away the backdoor DNA. It just doesn't. Yes, Dave. Hi, Dave. So is it my understanding that this witness helped coordinate an alibi for a potential suspect? Oh, not only an alibi, she helped him construct a completely new set of events that allowed her to dismiss him as a suspect because of liquid DNA in the graped area. Yeah. I've never heard anything like this. That that an investigator, instead of saying to themselves, okay, we have two sets of DNA, but only one set of DNA in the graped area, and then decide to, you know what? We're going to help the guy whose DNA is found in the graped area to construct a new set of facts he can say. I've never seen this.
Have been in that 5-day marker.
Yeah, I would ask for the opportunity to get my answer from the witness because we are on cross, excluding the narratives. Another report said that the witnesses are allowed to narrate after they answer a question.
Oh, they're allowed to explain, Mr. Cruz. So tell me what your objection is. Do you have an objection?
I'll make the objection when it takes place, Your Honor. I think that's the appropriate way to handle it.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Folks, this is Georgia. I covered the YSL trial for 2 years. Pre-trial, trial, aftermath. What this judge is doing with allowing the witness to explain maybe in the judge's discretion, but the YSL trial is not the only Georgia trial I've been listening in on or covering. In every other case, it is please just answer the defense attorney's question, and on redirect you can explain. Not here.
But then you told Chris, you know you didn't kill her, but you were the last person there before she got killed. Do you remember making that statement?
No, I do remember making that statement, but that was in the context of me giving him that narrative of the last, or giving him an out with that narrative.
You were giving him a narrative and giving him an out with this new narrative. That is you actively coaching a suspect on how to not be a suspect.
That was not separate, nor was I telling him he was the last person with her. It was in the context
Objection,
of that
narrative, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule that. I think she's explaining her answer to you, Mr. Cruz. I'm going to overrule that objection.
And you continued, and so in my mind, it makes complete sense that you would be omitted from the conversation because you don't want any more pressure on you. They are already hounding you enough, and you know that you didn't kill her, but you knew you were with her. You would agree that's an accurate statement?
No, that was my narrative that I was giving to him to use as a technique to try to give him one last opportunity to tell me that he was with her, if that was the case. But again, it was not.
Well, this is an interesting thing. You've already told us that when you interviewed Mr. Milton, you weren't interviewing him as a suspect. You were just interviewing him to have a conversation with him. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So giving him a justification as to why his DNA was present when it should not have been, would it be fair to say that you were justifying or trying to explain away his DNA with him?
No, I mean, his DNA should have been present. He was her boyfriend at the time.
Do you hear the absolute horse shit that comes out of this bitch face?
Time.
Sure. And
I
that
wasn't giving him a justification. I was ensuring that we.
objection narrative, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule that objection. You've asked a question. She's answering your question. I'll allow her to answer.
I was ensuring that we, trying to think of a good word to use. I was ensuring that we clarified everything in his statement and interviewed him in the best way possible before we started kind of moving on to Mr. Faust. And obviously we knew going in that he had an alibi and he did not kill her, but we.
That's tunnel vision. No, you assume he has an alibi. Now he's giving you information that should have made you question his alibi. Instead, you help him construct. You gave him the narrative on how to act innocent. There he was, as you claimed, distraught. Maybe he was. Of course, he was. He thought he was going to get arrested. He thought the game was up until he realized this stupid shit cunt is helping me. Yeah. Hi, I am Ted Skull. Yeah, my theory of the case. Let me give you this. According to her, Tara's roommates and friends, there was a clear change before and after the New Year's weekend. Clear enough so that her friend, you remember I don't remember her name, who also said it's almost as if the killer knew Tara would be home alone. That witness also said there was a clear difference. Prior to the New Year's, they spent all the time possible together. After New Year's, nothing. Nothing. Which makes me believe there was a breakup. We now know there's phone recordings that the day before, I believe, her death, Chris and Tara spoke 5 times. That's what the phone record shows. And Chris Milton explained it with, we haven't talked that much in months. In my opinion, that was Chris doing the simp thing. Starting out with, please take me back. other things, ending up with whatever, a clear argument. Here's my theory. After those 5 calls, she was so fed up with this loser she wasted 2 years with that she put on her clothes, a bit of makeup, went out and found that handsome black man. And it might be because this is not a big town. Chris found out. So Chris went there that morning, knocked on the door, was let in. Argument, assault, murder. Panic sets in. I need to cover my tracks. So he found a rag, cloth, put it on the stove to give himself time to get away. And here's the thing with the getting away part. There's no actual evidence that this slow burn took that hour and a half before it actually lit up properly. Could have been much longer. Much longer. Because there's no evidence. The only test they conducted about the fire, they took a test that had nothing to do with this case. So that is my theory on how this happened. Loser boyfriend couldn't handle the rejection, bugged her the day before or 2 days before her birthday. Take me back, take me back, take me back. Yada, yada, yada.
We were trying to do our best to explain this DNA with what we had at that moment.
And despite you explaining or giving him a way out, Chris still doesn't change his timeline from 10 days. Is that correct?
No, I believe I already stated that towards the end of the interview, he agreed that they would have had sex on that Sunday before she left his parents.
Let me specify.
Words matter. This court is very much about semantics. He didn't say, oh gosh, now I remember. He agreed with her. Yeah, I agree with you. That's not an independent statement of fact. That is, please stop bugging me. I'll just say what you want.
The question. After you told Chris, you know you didn't kill her, but you were the last person there before she got killed. And so in my mind, it makes complete sense that you would be omitted from the conversation because you don't want any more pressure on you. They're already hounding you enough and you know you didn't kill her, but you knew you were with her. Chris's response was, that's the tough part. Like, I don't recall being with her between the time.
I would have to listen to it, but I mean, we don't have to. I'm just saying that again is the narrative that I was kind of spewing to him to see if he was going to say anything else before we concluded this interview.
So my particular question.
But no, I don't believe it was accurate.
My particular question is, after you made that statement to Chris Milton, he still did not change his timeline from 10 days.
He was still kind of reeling all the information and he was almost like having a conversation with himself.
Objection, non-responsive.
Overruled. You've asked her a question and she's answering it. I'm going to allow this witness to answer your question. Agent Bigham.
I'm done.
Is that a yes or a no, Agent Bigham?
You'll have to ask me your question.
Sure. After you gave him the statement about him not being the killer, and specifically, you didn't kill her, but you knew you were with her, Chris still did not change his timeline from 10 days. Is that correct?
I don't believe that's accurate.
And you've heard portions of this interview. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you recognize the interview because it's your interview with Mr. Chris Milton. Is that correct?
Yes.
Based on the portions you heard, had that interview been altered in any way?
I only heard minutes of it.
Sure.
I would assume not, but I can't speak to that.
So I'll let you hear minute mark 128:16 to 128:43.
Yeah, and while we wait for that, YouTube gives me the ability to gift 10 free memberships each month. I gifted 5 a few days ago, and now I give 5 more. So to Katrina Bunny, MS10272, Attitude, That Bosnian Chick, Emotional Lemonade, congratulations, now you are a part of the Viking crew. You have access to all my members-only content. You have early access to my videos. And you get your own emojis on YouTube. Yay! And if anybody would say, oh, I also want to be a member, it's $3 a month and you get all the access. All the access. And also you support my channel so I can keep doing all these things. All right, let's keep listening to this. I think we can skip ahead quite a while here while she's listening.
But that is a fair and accurate portion of your statement or your conversation with Mr. Melton on May 5th, 2024.
Yes.
When it comes to expert witnesses and lead detectives like this, somehow it's a court rule that they are allowed to sit in and listen to all the witnesses and evidence. Hi, Blaze. Yes, this is yesterday. Today will start in about 20 minutes. And they will probably be late again because just as Judge Glanville in Atlanta, this judge can't tell time.
Portion of my conversation.
Okay. And for that particular portion, which is minute marks, (128:16 to 128:43), you recognize that particular portion. Is that right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and it hadn't been altered in any way to your knowledge.
I don't believe so.
Your Honor, I would move to introduce minute mark. Oh, excuse me. Let me show the state. Please forgive me.
All right.
I'm going to play this a little bit faster. Y'all tell me if it's too fast. I don't want to miss the first hour of
objection, Judge.
morning session.
All right. And what is, there's no objection, but you, Mr. Cruz, tell me what you want to admit.
Sure.
All right.
As the Exhibit 47, I am admitting minute mark 128:16 through 128:43
Right.
of Miss Elizabeth Bigham's conversation with Mr. Chris Melton on May 5th, 2024.
It is admitted.
And may I publish? Same
May.
for Your Honor.
For the record, folks, I'm going to go until 10:30 because a.m. your time, because I have stuff to do. It's cold as F, and I need to check the farm. And I have other personal things to do. So at around 10:30, I will be sending you over to Catnot Williams. But I will be with you until then with snark, legal opinions, and other things. And for you who are completely new here, hi, I'm Nick. For the past almost 35 years, I have been doing labor and employment law. That doesn't mean I'm an expert in criminal law, but it does, in my opinion, make me better than the average person in evaluating when people are lying.
You're still on the
I just skip.
And you complete
Oh, they're going to play it.
real quick, and you in your head, I was killed. You were the last person there before she got killed. And so in my mind, it makes complete sense that that would be omitted from the conversation because you don't want any more pressure on you. They're already hounding you enough, and you know you didn't kill her, but you knew you were with her.
That's the tough part. Like, I don't recall being between the times. Like,
So again, Mr. Melton is telling you he does not recall being with her in between that time. Is that correct?
Right. And at that point, he's just reeling over all this information. He's visibly upset to the point where we got him tissues and just kind of processing all this information. So we're going back and forth about it.
That is her trying to make excuses for Mr. Milton. As you remember Mr. Milton's testimony, where I'm breaking down, so sad, so sad. No tears. None whatsoever, because Mr. Milton can't cry on cue. Oh, 20 Fahrenheit is about -5 Celsius for the rest of the world. I got the question how cold it is, and it's currently around -5 here, not including wind chill.
You said you two were going back and forth about it?
Like that's what we had been doing, like back and forth as far as like going, like him talking about the 10 days, me talking about what he previously said, things not in an aggressive or argumentative way.
So it got to a point where Mr. Melton, as we've agreed to state it multiple times, that 10 days was the last time he saw Ms. Baker. Is that right?
Like I've said, I believe towards the end of the interview, we came to an agreement that they had sex Sunday before she left his parents' residence, which would have been the 5 days.
Sure. So my question is, during the interview, at some point, Mr. Melton continued to say that he hadn't seen Ms. Baker for 10 days. Is that right?
Yes, he said it multiple times.
And at a certain point, you would agree that you and Jeremy Howell started pressuring Chris to change his answer. Is that right?
No, we were just talking to him and trying to refresh his recollection and explain to him that what he said the day of her murder.
He tried to explain to you more than 7 times. No, 10 days. Do you know what happened back then, January 19th, 2001, January 21st? They let him just speak and accepted his answer. Then he changed his answer, apparently, allegedly, in Minecraft to the 10-day period, maybe just to make sure that, it was longer. Let's get myself further away.
2 days, or I'm sorry, 2 days after her murder, I apologize, was that they had sex 5 days prior.
Okay. And you interviewed Mr. Faust. Is that correct?
Myself and Agent Howell did.
But Mr. Faust didn't get that same benefit, did he?
We didn't get that far in the interview.
Did Mr. Faust get that benefit? Yes or no?
And Judge, I'm going to object the interview.
Yeah. Now, sadly, this is welcome to court, where she can spew shit all she wants, but in order for Mr. Faust to reference things that happened that speaks positively to him, he has to testify.
Is not in evidence, and the defendant is not allowed to elicit possible self-serving hearsay.
I didn't.
Response, Mr. Cruz.
Absolutely. This officer has personal knowledge of the interview as she was present, and I didn't ask for any hearsay statements, Your Honor. I just asked if Mr. Faust received that same benefit.
Okay, I think that Mr. Yelmanchili's statement is a correct interpretation of the law. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, ma'am. But our last question was that you and Mr. Howell began pressuring Chris to change his timeline. Is that correct?
I don't know that I'd call it pressuring. We were, again, utilizing interview techniques to try to elicit information if it were any different than what he had been providing for 20 some odd years.
Okay. Well, I asked you about that earlier, and you stated that you didn't believe Chris Milton lied 23 years earlier. But now you're saying that.
No, we didn't. We were trying to explain the DNA and trying to understand why it was there.
So would you agree that the statements that
Here's a mind-blowing thing, Miss Bigham, what? The reason why the DNA is there is because he killed her. His alibi is non-existing. His alibi is his high school buddy, who there's no evidence whatsoever worked beside him, for him, under him, over him, below him. There's no pay stubs. And the other piece of alibi is, if I recall correctly, that the bank at 9 or some time after 9 was a 4-minute visit. He went back to the bank on Monday for a longer visit. So, meaning that his claim at the time he was at the bank for half an hour was false. Yeah, who needs coffee? When you have hi cat. Hi cat.
Mr. Milton had given for 23 years prior was inconsistent with the DNA you had in Ms. Baker's mouth?
That's hard to answer because at that moment, because we believed that that was her oral swab, that was the oral swab.
At that time, May 2nd, we're talking about.
That's what I'm trying to think through. Can you ask me the question one more time? I apologize.
Sure. The statements that Mr. Milton had given for 23 years was inconsistent with the information you had regarding his DNA being in Ms. Baker's mouth.
Yes, I guess that would have been inconsistent at the time with the information we had in that moment.
Sure. But you.
And yet you spent over an hour trying to make him say stuff that wasn't true.
Chris has asked, despite this conversation and him saying 10 days, he has asked, is there even a percentage of a chance you were with her Thursday night? Is that correct?
I'm sure I said something like that.
Okay. And Chris responded, no.
That's correct.
He was then asked, not even a 1% chance. Is that correct?
Yes,
Chris again responded, no. Is that right?
that's correct.
And despite him saying, no, he is then asked again, even Wednesday night. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Chris responds, no.
That's correct.
However, despite Chris saying no, law enforcement tells Chris, I understand you're saying you don't recall.
Are you saying we told him that?
Correct.
I don't remember.
You don't remember making a statement. Excuse me. You don't remember Mr. Howell making a statement. I understand you're saying I don't recall.
I don't.
This is so stupid. How is this not coaching the most likely suspect in the murder?
I mean, I'm not arguing with you that he did make the statement, but I just don't remember that specifically.
I'll let you listen to the portion just to make sure it's accurate. Okay. You're on the approach with me.
I don't know her specific reasons to acting the way she does towards the boyfriend, other than apparently she can't get into her head that boyfriends can
Do you recognize?
rape and murder
Bigham?
I do. That's
girlfriends.
Agent Howell speaking.
Okay, but you're present as well. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
And did that recording sound like it had been altered in any way?
No.
Okay, we've already established that this is the May 5th, 2024 interview with Mr. Chris Milton.
It is.
Okay. Your Honor, I would move to admit minute marks 128:58 through 129:10 into the record.
Is this D48?
Yeah, I see it in the chat here. Yeah, they arrested Mr. Faust 4 or 5 days later. The arrest affidavit was on May 9th, 2024. Thank you, Kat. In order to get the arrest of Mr. Faust, they had to make him change his story. They had to. Because if he kept saying no 10 days prior, then the reasonable cause for arrest, or whatever you call it, would have been destroyed at the upcoming hearing, in the probable cause hearing. Because then Mr. Faust and his attorney would have gone in there and said, Judge, they claim I did all that, but they have another person's DNA in the raped area, who says they never had bum sex, who says they didn't have sex for 10 days. Why am I under arrest? And she knew that. She couldn't have that because she had a black guy to railroad.
No, this is the same exhibit. I'm just marking different points that will be admissible. And I'll give the court reporter the portions that will be admitted.
I think it's probably best we just call it 48.
D48. How we sticker it?
I'm not exactly sure at this point, but just for the record, to be clear, these are two separate
Portions?
entries,
Sure.
and it can be the same thing. And just so it's recognized that they're two separate entries, the last one's 47, this is 48.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any objection?
Yes, Judge. I took Mr. Cruz's original action to be refreshing the witness's recollection, which she stated she was refreshed and then testified consistently with the statement. So I don't know that there's any reason to admit it for publication in front of the jury as a prior inconsistent statement, which seems to be what Mr. Cruz is planning on doing here.
Right, Mr. Cruz, you can
May I
respond?
respond? Sure.
Of course.
The question I asked her was just personally to make sure that she recognized that so I could lay the foundation for a prior inconsistent statement. Her statement to that question was, or to my last question that led to this, was in regards to, despite Chris saying no, Chris was told, I understand you're saying I don't recall. And her response to that was no. So I laid the foundation as a prior inconsistent statement, and we're asking for admission as saying.
Mr. Yamanchili?
That wasn't her response. Her response was, I don't recall, at which point Mr. Cruz played this statement for her. And then she responded, yes, that is Agent Howell. So
I mean, I think that's accurate. I don't think we're dealing with a prior inconsistent statement. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Yes, ma'am. So however, despite Chris saying no, he's told, I understand you're saying I don't recall.
No, when I listened to that just now, my understanding what Agent Howell was saying was, I understand if you don't recall. That's how I interpreted what Agent Howell was saying.
Sure. Your Honor, I would ask to admit minute mark 128:58 through 129:10 as a prior inconsistent statement. Or
That's my interpretation.
Impeachment by contradiction as well. So I think this one would fit more so under impeachment by contradiction.
All right. Mr. Yamanchili, any response?
I just have the same response as I had before, Judge.
I think based on the witness's statement, Mr. Cruz, you have not proved that this is a prior inconsistent statement for purposes of admission. You may be able to admit it later, but for this specific purpose, I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay. Is this abstained in regards to impeachment by contradiction as well?
Yes.
Okay. Understood, Your Honor. Now, during your questioning, you have no reason to disagree that Chris changed his timeline from 10 days to 5 days. Is that fair?
We talked about it towards the end of the conversation.
Okay. And with that conversation that you had with Chris, you told Chris, but I think what you said is, and I believe we talked about this, is that she slept at your parents' house the Saturday night before, and then she left Sunday morning, and that was the last time you saw her. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
And Chris is then told that you and Jeremy have to be able to explain his DNA and that he needs to be within a certain window or you can't explain his DNA. Is that correct?
I'm not going to argue with you that it's not. I'm sure it is. But we were, again, trying to explain to him that we've got to understand why this DNA is in this in here in the window.
I'm repeating myself here. She's handing him the keys to the wrong side of the gate in those interviews. They can't fathom that Chris Milton lied about his alibi. They didn't even bother to check out that his alibi was his high school buddy. They thought they only knew each other from work, which was false. His dad, that was 4 months later. Have you ever heard of parents giving alibis to their kids in hope they won't get a conviction? Of course it happens. It happens all the damn time. But not this time, because she has a black man to prosecute.
Did you have to explain it for Mr. Faust?
Again, we didn't get to that point.
Did you try to explain it for Mr. Faust?
We didn't get to that point in the interview.
We're going to sustain that objection.
Thank you.
At the time you interviewed Mr. Faust, you already had
Again, Judge, he can't reference this interview without it being admitted, and as the defendant, he can't admit it.
Judge,
Mr. Cruz and Mr. Yalman-Chile Van Sief. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's
4 months later, after he sat in on Chris' original interview. I mean, ask any cop out there. Hey, if a woman is murdered, who is your first suspect?
yes.
9 times out of 10 or more, it is the boyfriend, or very shortly, well, ex-boyfriend, boyfriend, husband, about to get divorced.
Let me ask that question.
at the time of your interview with Mr. Faust, you had already secured arrest warrants. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the basis of that was his liquid DNA not in her graped area. And that there's no physical evidence whatsoever of Mr. Faust in the apartment. But the judge has denied the defense the ability, because of the so-called grape shield law in Georgia. You can't bring in the victim's sexual history. In my opinion, the prosecution, the moment they gave Mr. Milton the benefit of the doubt and said his DNA all over her, inside her, hair in the apartment, stuff like that, the moment they gave him that to say no, can't be him, must be him, they brought in her sexual history, making the shield grape shield law moot. But not according to this judge. So they can't bring in that Mr. Faust and the victim may or may not have met up the night before.
So in regards to Mr. Faust, we have DNA in Ms. Baker's mouth, and based on that, Mr. Faust, an arrest warrant is issued for Mr. Faust for murder. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, felony murder. Is that correct?
Yes.
Burglary. Is that correct?
Yes.
Arson. Is that correct?
Yes.
Aggravated sodomy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But Mr. Melton's DNA is in Ms. Baker's anus, and an arrest warrant isn't issued for Mr. Melton for sodomy. Is that right? It isn't issued for murder?
No. Despite
acknowledging that Mr. Melton may have said something for the past 23 years that wasn't consistent with the DNA evidence that you had on May 5th, 2024.
Was that a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, you'll have to rephrase.
Sure. Now, let me ask you this way. Despite having Mr. Melton's DNA on May 5th, 2024, okay, and despite knowing his statements for the past 23 years were inconsistent with the DNA evidence that you believe you had on May 5th, 2024, an arrest warrant was not issued for him?
No.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you know Mr. Milton's family?
No.
Okay, so you don't know if he's related to anybody?
No.
Okay. Does he have any family in law enforcement that you would know of?
No idea.
So just based solely on Mr. Milton, I'm assuming being Mr. Melton, an arrest warrant is an issue for his arrest.
Mr. Milton had an alibi that made it impossible for him to kill Tara Baker.
We have went through this so many times now. It's ridiculous. It would take a bad attorney minutes to destroy Mr. Milton's alibi. Minutes.
And you've been in the courtroom each and every time we've talked about Mr. Milton's alibi. Is that correct?
Yes, but I also reviewed it in the 20,000 plus page case file and multiple interviews over the years.
That should have been objected to, because now she's referencing things that are not in evidence. It's a principle called I don't have the well, the basics of it is you can't talk about evidence that is unknown. You can't reference unknown things. You can, if there's been pre-trial orders saying this thing is out, you can't reference it because it makes the notion that there are more evidence against the defendant. So when she says, well, I also read this, well, either everything is admitted or you shut the fuck up.
And you'd agree that once Mr. Milton is told, that window we're in is we have to be able to explain why you are where you are just as much as we have to explain why someone else is there as well. But it's a narrow window, and it can get complicated if your window is greater than the window of expectation for how long evidence could be there. And that's what we're trying to drill down into. The further in time you are from how long this could last, the more complicated and less reasonable that explanation is. Do you remember Mr. Milton being told that?
Did I say that or did Agent Howell say that?
Mr. Milton was told that.
I'm sure he was. I don't recall if I said that or if Agent Howell said that.
But once that statement was made, we can agree that Chris then says, if anything, it would have been maybe that Sunday, the weekend before. Is that correct?
We had been talking about that the entire time because I had continually refreshed his recollection on the statement he gave 2 days after Tara's murder.
So, Ms. Bigham, my question is, after that statement was made to him about his DNA, his response was, if anything, it would have been maybe that Sunday, the weekend before. We would have done something Sunday morning before she left. Is that accurate?
Yes, he did state something along those lines.
Now, Ms. Bigham,
At the same time, he could not find the back of his ass in a snowstorm about where he was. His alibi, remember his alibi that she says claims is rock solid? They can't even agree on where they were at what time.
we've agreed that Chris Milton stated that Ms. Baker spent the night at his parents' house the weekend before her death. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. However, you would agree that nowhere in your case file or in no report that Mr. Milton's parents ever confirmed that Ms. Baker stayed at their house the weekend before her death. Is that correct?
Do you know they were interviewed? I don't believe they were asked about that, but I would have to look at the report to be certain. But I don't believe they were asked about her spending the night.
So the answer to my question is a yes. Is that correct?
Well, yes, they were interviewed.
So my question was that Mr. Milton's parents never confirmed the information that Ms. Baker was at their home the weekend before her death.
I believe that's correct.
And you cannot show the jury any report confirming Mr. Milton's claim that Ms. Baker was at Mr. Milton's home the weekend before her death.
No, I don't recall seeing anything there.
In fact, law enforcement simply took Chris's word for it. Is that correct?
Wouldn't say they took Chris's word. They conducted additional interviews with alibi witnesses, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Objection, non-responsive, Your Honor. My question didn't involve alibi witnesses.
I'm going to overrule the objection. I think this witness is allowed to explain her answer. You may follow up with any questions.
Sure.
They conducted interviews with additional witnesses that could confirm where Chris was on Friday morning. Their focus was on Friday morning. That was law enforcement's focus back then.
This is your case file. Can you?
Yeah. You know what they didn't do? Collect pay stubs. Collect video. Collect witness statements from the bank, from the place he claims to have getting his supplies, from the Chick-fil-A, from the whatever thing they claim he claims he went to? Nothing. They took his word for it. They took his high school buddy's word for it. That's it. On the 19th and 21st. That's it.
Show the jury where that information is in your case now.
Where what information is?
That Mr. Melton or anybody confirmed that Ms. Baker was with Mr. Melton the Saturday before.
I never said that they confirmed that.
So that isn't confirmed, is that right?
No, I never said that. I said that law enforcement focused on his whereabouts Friday morning of her murder.
So based on the information you had on May 5th, whether that window was 12 hours, a couple of days, you would agree at the time of Ms. Baker's death, Chris Melton's DNA being in her mouth would suggest that he had been dishonest about the last time he saw Ms. Baker.
We believed at the time of the interview that it was in her mouth. That was later determined to be incorrect based on additional crime laboratory testing that we did.
Let's talk about that because I believe you've mentioned that a couple of times. So I would like to hone in on that. And is it okay if we have a discussion about that?
Sure.
Okay. Now, we've agreed that you told Chris, or Chris was told, that law enforcement needed to be able to explain his DNA. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And it is fair to say that Mr. Melton would not put himself with Ms. Baker within the week of her death. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. You would agree that by removing Mr. Melton from her mouth and putting Mr. Melton in Ms. Baker's vagina, it changes the timing window. Is that correct?
My understanding is the window that sperm can last in the vagina is different than in the mouth.
Which would allow you to explain Chris's DNA. Is that right?
Once we determined that those were indeed vaginal swabs, it definitely made more sense.
Okay. You would agree that you did not.
That is actually false. There's only presumptive testing, not confirmatory testing, because as it turns out, the thing is that make them think it might be the vagine. The test can test positive for a multiple of different things. And especially since they claim in this investigation that, oh, we mislabeled. Or you lost the fucking VAG swabs.
Not obtain the result. Well, excuse me. The testing that you did was with California company. Is that right?
Yes. With
Okay.
Pure Gold.
And we're in Georgia. Fair?
Yes,
We're on the East Coast. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Pure Gold is on the West Coast. Is that right?
That's right.
And you heard Ms. Lycon's testimony?
I did.
She stated that multiple labs throughout the United States conduct this type of testing. Is that fair?
I believe she said that.
Now, we could agree that we didn't move Chris from the mouth to the vagina until November 4th, 2024. Is that right?
Is that when the Pure Gold report was issued?
Unfortunately, I cannot answer
No.
any questions.
If that's when the Pure Gold report was issued, then that was when we got confirmation that those were vaginal swabs.
Would you have any reason to disagree that report was issued November 4th, 2024?
I don't, but I would have to look at it to be 100% certain.
Now, you mentioned confirmation that it was vaginal swabs, but Ms. Lycon herself said this is a presumptive test. There's no confirmatory testing. Would you agree?
Yes, she did speak to that.
Okay. So for the benefit of Mr. Melton, the mouth swab was turned into a vaginal swab based on a presumptive test. Is that fair?
I would say it was for the benefit of the investigation, not for Mr. Milton specifically. But we needed to figure out which ones were vaginal swabs because we knew from the vaginal smears that one of those packs had to have been vaginal swabs and they were just mislabeled.
Well, this is the thing. You would agree there have been a lot of mistakes in this investigation, right?
I'm not going to speak to other potential mistakes.
Well, you've been in the courtroom with us. We had an incident. You remember the incident where we opened the package, the state admitted, and it was empty, but it was supposed to contain hairs. Do you recall that?
That was the package that the hairs were collected in. Once the hairs go to the crime lab, they get mounted on slides.
Sure. How about the clock? Did you hear the testimony about the clock being lost?
I don't remember the clock being lost.
That's fine. How about the screen? Did you hear the testimony about the screen being
Oh,
lost?
absolutely.
Do you all have possession of Ms. Baker's house keys?
I don't believe so.
So Ms.
As far
Baker's,
as the GBI is concerned, I
Correct.
don't believe so. And I don't remember seeing them during the evidence inventory.
so Ms. Baker's, let me make sure. You're saying that you never had a set of keys from Ms. Baker?
I don't believe so. I don't recall seeing a set of keys
From Ms. Baker, is that correct?
from Ms. Baker.
Court's indulgence, Your Honor.
I can look through the evidence list if you'd like me to.
Please do, and I'll look through the one that we have as well.
Sorry, I call from work. Gotta take the call from work. Welcome to working
Are you
with
speaking
law.
of
You're never
Elvis
actually
key ring with 2 keys, Tara's apartment?
I am.
not available.
I mean, it says yeah, we did check it actually. I just don't remember.
So do you have possession of Miss Baker's keys?
No, I do not have possession.
Okay, where are Miss Baker's house keys?
I don't know. They were in the possession of the Athens Clarke County Police Department on
Folks, this is the lead detective. And she has no clue where those are. They claim it's at one place. Folks, the keys has not been admitted into evidence. And here I might be wrong because it is a number of days ago. But her doors were locked. How do you explain that away? The window was still there. The doors were locked. Yeah, keys were never admitted. Have they actually checked her keychain? Where's the fucking key?
December 11th of 2023.
That's-
I apologize. I don't remember. There were 180 something pieces of evidence that we inventoried.
Do you have the lock to Miss Baker's home?
I mean, I don't believe we have everything. I think Athens Clarke County Police Department has all of the evidence. I do recall the lock. Yes, the deadbolt from the front door. Is that what you're speaking of? Yeah, that was inventoried and we checked it on December 11th.
Do you have possession of that lock in the courthouse here today?
I have no idea. I'd have to go look.
Do we have possession of those keys in the courthouse here today?
I have no idea. I'd have to go look.
All right, but you stated that you are the lead investigator on the case with Mr. Howell, is that fair?
Yes.
Excellent. So I want to talk about the physical evidence from Ms. Baker's house based on your investigation and your decision to get an arrest warrant. We can agree that no hairs in the home were connected to Mr. Edric Faust. Is that fair?
Yes.
If you could write under arrest warrant secured, no hairs.
Yeah, but Chris's was conveniently.
And we can also agree in regards to Mr. Milton's hair. His hair was found on the cord used to strangle Ms. Baker. Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect. It was found on the, I think people keep calling it the power transformer box for the printer. Now, the cord of the printer was utilized to do that, but if I'm not mistaken, it's on the power transformer box.
Miss why would his hair be there, Mr. Milton's? In close connection to the power cord that was used to strangle her. He hadn't been in her house since before New Year's. Why would
And power transformer is connected to the cord that was used to strangle Ms. Baker. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
As far as fingerprints, I'm sorry. Attorney Hill, if you were right, hair on, and make sure I put this right, Ms. Bigham. I want to make sure I get this accurate, okay? But hair on undermelon, correct, under anal. Hair on weapon. Is that fair? Power cord was used as a weapon?
It's on the power transformer box. It was not on the cord.
That was connected to the cord. Is that right?
Sure.
Oh yeah, by the way, this remember the hair expert the other day? How he testified. First of all, it's a shit science, which should be thrown out of every court. And I explained this a few days ago. It depends. Where do you collect the hair from for comparison? Let me show you. Up here, my hair. Oh, folks, I'm old as fuck, okay? Up here, my hair is brittle. On normal people, you know the baby hair that is up here? Compared with the hair on the back of your head? Different characteristics. That is why these hair fucktards, so-called experts, should never be allowed in court. Because, yeah, we found the hair. Here we've collected hair sample from that guy. Yeah, but from which part of the head?
Okay, fingerprints. None of Mr. Faust's fingerprints were found in the house. We could agree on that.
That's correct.
Okay. And I won't go into the interview. I'll save that. But at this point, the evidence we do have, DNA, mouth, anus, Mr. Melton did not engage in anal sex, Mr. Melton, hair on power transformer connected to the cord used to strangle Ms. Baker. Is that fair?
Yes.
We also have a mitochondrial DNA test that states that the pubic hair found on Ms. Baker's butt could not eliminate Mr. Melton as the contributor. Is that correct? And that's from 2007 from lab court.
And you say that it couldn't eliminate Mr. Melton? I'd have to look at the report again to refresh my recollection.
Sure, I believe it's already in evidence, so that's fine.
Okay.
But you did not have any hairs that was in GBI or ACCPD's custody tested for DNA. Is that correct?
No, we did not.
Okay.
In 2024 or 3 and beyond.
Okay. You had the swabs and you solely went off the swabs. Is that correct?
No, after meeting with the crime lab that in February of 24, we went through every piece of evidence. The meeting was hours. We went through every single piece of evidence with each section head of each area. So hairs and fibers, DNA, latent prints, et cetera. And went through all the evidence and talked about all the evidence, what had been done on it in the past, what could be done on it in the future, or not the future, but now. Had any technology changed or been updated that would be valuable to retest or to help retest these items. And that's how we determine what we could resubmit versus what couldn't be resubmitted because either maybe the technology wasn't there or nothing, they've already done everything with it and there's nothing else to do, things like that.
Folks, have you heard of the Gilgo Beach serial killer, Rex Hoyerman? He was caught through hair that had been buried for, what was it, 15? Well, over a decade. Buried. They could still get mitochondrial DNA and then also a fuller DNA profile from those hair from that New York lab. And here she is saying, oh, this lab could not do it. Well, did you check if other labs could? I assume you didn't. Because with the Gilgo Beach serial killer case, we now know, I don't know the technology around it, that you can get better profiles with the new technology there is. And this technology was used in 2024.
Can you tell the jury what items of Mr. Melton's were, well, let me rephrase that. What items were resubmitted for DNA testing? Because I understand that you all's position is the reason we have the DNA is because of new technology. Is that fair?
Yes, newer technology. That's my understanding.
Excellent. But we can agree that no DNA testing took place of the unidentified hairs. Is that fair?
Okay, we are going to finish off this cross-examination. I won't go into the redirect or recross or anything of that sort because I see they have started talking now in today's trial, but I want to finish this first before we go over there. We will catch up. And then, as I said earlier, I can do an hour and a half. And then at about, at least once I see that Catnot Williams is live, I'm going to send you over to her.
Yes, but there was reasons for that. Some of them were not suitable didn't have a route suitable for DNA testing, et cetera. I have an explanation for some of the hairs.
Sure, that's fine. Now I'd like to ask you this, and I'll end on this note with you. And I won't go deep into it, but we've talked about the DNA in the mouth and anus. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, and we've already agreed that you were armed with that information. Is that correct?
Some of that information on a second.
And despite being armed with this information, you told Chris Milton, but that's why it doesn't matter. If you're like, you know what? I effing lied about it 23 years ago because I was a scared, terrified kid. And you're right. I had a booty call with her that night. I left at midnight. I don't know what happened after that. It'll be, thank you. Have a nice day. We'll let you know what happens. That's it. Is that a correct statement from you?
Yes, because Mr. Melton had an alibi that would have made it impossible for him to kill Tara.
And you explained.
It's just so stupid. This is so insanely stupid. Insanely stupid. That she even brings that up. Here's the thing, shit fuck. If the actual evidence does not correlate with Milton's statements, then you have to check if that alibi is actually valid. And you didn't, because you had a black guy to set up.
To Chris again, we just want to be able to explain it and make it make sense so we can focus on this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Any redirect to Mr. Yelman-Chile?
Let's see here. Now, I don't. Folks, we need to get to today. This was from yesterday with that thing helping the more probable killer get away with murder and rape and arson, in my opinion. All right. Boom. Let's see what happened today. What happens today? Because yeah. And here's one thing that I think that the defense did really, really good with not.
We're going to go on the record.
Yeah. Wait, Judge. Not calling her back. Wait a minute. I have to check again. Did they actually? Well, I don't know if she is subpoenaed or not. I don't care. But it's a good tactic for what they did to Mr. Milton, what they did to other witnesses, to not have them come back. Because then they can use their witnesses to impeach the state's witnesses. And oh, she is on the defense list. Okay. Well, when it comes to other witnesses in this trial who is not being called back, then neither can the prosecution. They can't call back a bunch of witnesses for redirect, while the defense, if they choose to, in their case in chief, can impeach the ever-living fuck out of those people. All right.
And I'm going to ask the state. I know, Mr. Bolden, you're down there. Mr. Yelman-Chile, are you all ready for the jury to come in?
We are, Judge. I think, though, before the jury comes in, I'd just like to put on the record the timestamps from Mr. Faust's interview that the state is planning on playing.
Okay.
It would be 6:03:55. That's hour, minute.
So that is what's coming on today.
10:20.
Mr. Faust interview.
6:14:01 to 6:15:05. 6:50:30 to 6:53:05. 7:02:45 to 7:05:40. 7:11:45 to 7:15:05. 7:16:14 to 7:16:47. And 7:08:35 to 7:11:15. Your Honor, and I believe all of those segments would comport with my understanding of Mr. Cruz's objection to certain portions of the interview that would contain information that wouldn't be admissible in front of the jury. Of course, or if there are additional portions that Mr. Cruz wants to play that would be admissible before the jury, he certainly has the opportunity to do that during cross-examination. I may have a couple of questions for Agent Howell that fall outside of those timestamps, but I think he has an understanding, and he's present in the courtroom for whatever the instructions the court may or may not want to give him. But I think he already has an understanding that we can't be talking about criminal history, can't be talking about Mr. Faust having been swabbed when he went into prison. And so,
Folks, once this trial is over, with hopefully an acquittal for Mr. Faust, I want to have those interviews with Chris Milton and Mr. Faust, and then we can compare them on how the cops acted.
as it relates to the portion that we would play from 7:16:14 to 7:16:47, I will have a question for Agent Howell about a statement that immediately precedes that. In the actual recorded interview, Agent Howell makes reference to Mr. Faust of, when you get swabbed to go into prison, do you know why we do that? Then Mr. Faust's response is DNA. And so we would play from the portion that Mr. Faust says DNA. And the groundwork question for Agent Howell before that would be immediately before this response from Mr. Faust, did you ask him if he was aware that he had been swabbed with his DNA being entered in a database? And I'm going to ask that question in a leading manner to elicit just a yes or no answer to that question because of the fact that we're talking about some sensitive information.
Yeah, you cannot play to the jury things that is about, why? That I'm quite sure they can't even reference what they got a hit from. I've seen other trials about that, and because prior criminal history should never, even referenced, be allowed in trial of a defendant. Why? Because it's prejudicial as fuck.
Shouldn't come in front of the jury.
Mr. Cruz, you care to respond?
Yes, I would object to, and I'm still going through the timestamps I got from Mr. Yalamachili, but portion 6:14:21 through, 16. I'm sorry, I think I wrote this wrong. 6:14:21 through 6:14:59. I would object to that portion, Your Honor, because that portion is talking
Yeah,
about,
I know that
Mr.
she mentioned
Faust and his prior
Cody's
prison.
on the stand.
And I could read the portion.
That is,
I'm mistaken, sir.
should have
I
been
think your timestamps and your transcript
a mistrial,
are a little bit off. I can play for the court,
or at least a motion for mistrial.
Why don't we do that first? Mr. Cruz, so you're aware of what he's talking about.
Okay, but before we play that, because I don't want to forget this point, in regards to the DNA being taken in prison, we would stipulate that, I'll say this. First, I would object to any discussion about his DNA being previously taken. We've made clear that we are not contesting DNA in this case. That isn't anything that let me change that statement. We're not contesting that the state took swabs from Mr. Faust and obtained his DNA. As far as previously having his DNA, I would argue, Your Honor, that is irrelevant in this case because after the arrest warrants were secured, they took swabs from Mr. Faust, and the swabs that they took from Mr. Faust are the actual swabs that they sent off to be tested by the state. So
Yeah,
we
they have the
previously had the
post
DNA and
arrest
everything of that
swabs
nature.
anyway.
Because they end up getting this DNA, I think that would be cumulative, and it'd also be more prejudicial than probative.
You care to respond to Mr. Cruz's objection about that particular moment?
Yes, Your Honor. It's already in evidence in front of the jury. I think it's absolutely relevant to indicate why it is that law enforcement has contact with Mr. Faust at all. It's the entire mechanism by which he is identified as the perpetrator of the crime prior to the confirmatory testing.
Yeah, I heard. Hi, Kat. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, they stopped him on May 8th to try to get a saliva from a field sobriety test. Yeah, I heard about that. And that is insanity. Absolute insanity.
It's done later on. So it's the way in which he is identified in the investigation. It's already been testified to in front of the jury. And I think it's certainly relevant.
That has not been testified to in front of the jury. The furthest they've gotten is CODIS, and that was for me a very close line, but I didn't object. They mentioned CODIS. I think we could leave it there. If the state is saying that it's already in evidence, the additional argument would be that it's cumulative. And it would be a waste of time to the jurors if this is something the state is saying they are already having. But to use a statement to put forth before the jury that the state previously had his DNA and implied due to prison, I think that would be inappropriate. So I would object under 404B, Your Honor, as well as 24403.
Okay, well, let me make sure I understand your argument, because the state has said they are not going to, and they would not be allowed to mention anything about any prior criminal history or incidents that may have happened in another criminal case. I mean, they're not allowed to do that. That is certainly true. But my understanding of Mr. Yelman-Chili's argument was that they were excluding that.
But they would ask the witness about previously having Mr. Faust's DNA. CODIS in itself, as we know, the Honorable Court is aware of what CODIS is. But then to say 24 years later, we previously had your DNA, what do you think we got it for? And Mr. Faust's response is DNA. It's implicitly stating the reason law enforcement has his DNA is because he's been in trouble with the law before. And in Georgia, as we know, the only individuals that have to give DNA are individuals that are convicted of felony offenses.
Thank you. Mr. Yelman-Chili, do you care to respond to that argument?
I think that the witness who would testify regarding the hit in the database has been instructed that we will refer to it as a national database of known DNA profiles. And
for the love of fuck.
Ask the question in whatever manner the court instructs me to ask it in.
Don't ask it at all. You know this is improper.
Asking permission.
The judge knows it's improper.
Posing the question to detective
Question is
Howell,
if she cares.
Agent Howell, excuse me, to be able to ask it in a leading manner so we don't leave any room open for the chance that any words other than the ones that are authorized by the court would be used in the asking of the question. So,
and I'm asking the opposite, that question or that area not be delved into at all, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Cruz, you're saying that because you're saying that it violates 403, that it is a waste of time and it is cumulative.
Not just that, but it's also more prejudicial than, the probative value is substantially outweighed by its prejudicial impact or undue prejudice. But also it gets into 404. Pretty much what I believe this line of testimony would put before the jury is an inference of Mr. Faust has been in trouble with the law before, they've gotten his DNA before. As the state has mentioned, and a portion I disagree with, a portion is the CODIS. They've already mentioned CODIS. CODIS is before the jury, right? They've already mentioned that his DNA matched or alerted in CODIS. As far as going down the line of talking to Mr. Faust, why do you think we have your DNA? Outside of implying bad character, it's really no other purpose of putting that information before the jury. We've already established that the state has his DNA, I believe, through Agent Bigham. She testified about the swabs. The swabs were admitted to evidence, which were swabs from Mr. Faust's mouth. I don't think that whether or not they had DNA is going to be an issue in this case. We have some questions about the DNA, but the state's position is that they have DNA. Bring it through Jeremy Howell that they previously had his DNA, or Mr. Faust saying my DNA. I would stand by my objection under 403 or under 404 as well. But I would add that the probative value of the evidence is substantially outweighed by undue prejudice.
All right, thank you. Anything further?
No, Judge.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you all a 15-minute break and see if you have any case law this court can look at. I want to sort of give you a few of my thoughts about this.
This judge, at least she knows this time that allowing this under false pretenses is an unforced error. But she's giving, I mean, just the fact that she's giving the prosecution this string, please go find me a case. Please, please, please don't go find me a case so I can be a cunt about it.
Argument. The first is that I do find it is relevant. And so that doesn't even touch 403 yet, but it is relevant. I mean, I don't think there's any question that the information the state is seeking to elicit is irrelevant, and I don't find that it's cumulative. So it's not violative of 403 in that sense. The jury selection process from both parties repeatedly referred to websites and companies that people consistently use in our country, like Ancestry.com or 21andMe or whatever, those kinds of companies. Those questions were asked by both parties to the jury. And so there is a sense of at least both parties have inserted into this trial through their questions to the jury panel as a whole, and of course.
So why do you need the state to mention anything?
Both parties have inserted the idea that DNA is often these days in the mainstream of society, whether it be in a company like Ancestry.com or something like that. And so
that was jury questions. That is not trial, you cunt. In this context, with that question, the reference is he's been in trouble with the law. It doesn't matter what you said pre-trial. That's not part of the record and not part of the jury's consideration. Jesus Christ, woman, you are referencing things outside of record to bring in evidence of prior criminal history. This is so stupid.
certainly, Mr. Cruz, your argument is very significant. I'm going to go look up the law, and I'll let you all look it up too, about whether it is common knowledge that a national database like CODIS is only reflective of someone being in the prison system. I'm not sure that's accurate. There hasn't been any evidence in the trial.
You stupid woman!
That says anything like the national database is only for people that have been in the prison system. There has been no evidence to suggest that. And so I do think the question is whether that is such a common understanding that it is a moment where when it's mentioned, the jury would absolutely know this. And I'm not sure about that. I am going to look up the law as to whether something like this is violative
Yeah.
of
Cadnot Williams says something really. The state is not referencing CODIS in itself. They want to reference, hey, a cop saying, hey, you know how we blah, 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 whatever's. And the answer is DNA. When a cop says that, it is through CODIS, it is through the criminal system. So she's bending herself into a pretzel to get this admitted.
404B, and then I'll make a decision about whether 403 has actually been implicated. So it's almost 9:30. I'll be back on the bench at 9:45 and we'll discuss it. All right, thank you.
All right, that is in 3 minutes because we are a bit behind. And we are up to actual live. Now, this judge can't tell time. I've seen it in these damn breaks that she has. 10 minutes breaks, 25 minutes. An hour's lunch, an hour and a half. It's like you're watching Glanville. Yeah, this trial is so stupid in itself. And if you saw my thumbnail, hold on while I show it. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Let me just show it. I'm going. This is today's thumbnail. I am not so subtle in hinting what I feel about this judge. The way she behaves against the defense attorney, the way she allows evidence in that should never be allowed in, how she allowed in 3 steps removed hearsay for the prosecution, and then she refuses to allow the defense to bring in evidence of a known false fact that the prosecution wants to get in about where Mr. Faust was actually staying at the time. The prosecution knows that their inference of a specific address is false. The judge knows it's false, but she still denied Mr. Faust's defense to present evidence to rebut it. Ooh, look at that. Lott recused herself on June 18th following a motion from the defendant's attorney, Matt Lester. All right. Thank you, Emotional Lemonade. Lester filed a motion that Lott has exhibited bias. I'm not surprised because we are watching this trial. Let's bring in this again so we don't miss anything. Yeah, and probably better take Georgia off your relocation list. If, for you who don't know, I have this plan or dream to relocate to the United States. I'm looking at cheap property in Tennessee, Kentucky, northern Georgia, because it reminds me of home, of where I grew up, with the hills and the rivers and the stuff. And so if I'm going to Georgia, I'm going to the mountains. And I'm going to get myself a little cottage, a plot of land, and a fuck ton of guns. Don't do it. We're all trying to escape. Yeah, folks, I have 100 reasons to stay over here with universal health care and all the things. And you know what we don't have? We don't have the First Amendment. Let me give you an example. In lower court, a 16-year-old was convicted of insulting a government employee. He called a cop a cocksucker. He was convicted of it in lower court. Now, luckily, in the appeals court, they vacated it because it was stupid. There are now hundreds of cases of these snowflake woke government employees who can't handle criticism, who can't handle being called names. Those are the government, and we are not allowed to insult them, and they only have to feel insulted. Welcome to Europe. And if you have listened more than 5 minutes to my streams, you know I this with insulting people, it's kind of my thing. So yeah, First Amendment, that overrides. Yeah, I know about the recent activity from a certain American government body. Look at me. I'm white as fuck. I'm practically translucent. This here is 1,000 years of Scandinavian inbreeding. Sadly, that makes me not really... Eyes won't go after me. And I'm tall. I'm a big guy. I'm somewhere between 6'3" and 6'4", and I'm closing in on 300 pounds. Now, I can't run due to arthritis, but come within range. Yeah, but here's the thing. Me relocating, we are talking maybe 5, 6, 7 years into the future. We don't know how the landscape is then. We don't know. They have Irish locked up in ICE detention camps. Yeah, but do you know what they say about the Irish? They are the blacks of Europe. Oh, I'm going to get so cancelled for that. Viking Invasion Part 2! Yeah. Arresting people based solely on accent. Well, hence I want to go to the mountains. Hi, Mrs. Kagriff, by the way. Hello. Yeah, I know Australia just changed their laws. You can't use hate speech. And who determines what is hate speech? Hate speech. The government. I don't trust the government for anything. Oh, thank you, Derek. Thank you. Thank you so much for your £3 super sticker. Let's check out what that was. It was a fox saying, "How's it going?" It's going all right. It's going all right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, every little ad I don't have ads on my live streams, so if you see an ad, tell me, because I didn't fucking put them in there. Replay crew will get one ad every 20 minutes or so. In my videos, one every 10 minutes or so. So if you want to support my channel, but you don't want to do the super chats and stuff, watch my videos, give a thumbs up, subscribe. Now, if you have the means to support my channel financially, I gladly accept it, but only if you actually can afford it. If you're choosing between bread and me, choose bread. Okay? That Bosnian chick says, I trust they are lying to me. Trust that 100%. Yep. Yes, I will go to the United States legally. I will do all the things necessary. That 10 minutes is now more than 10 minutes. What did she say? We will be back 9:45. Bitch, it's now 9:55. Now, my relocation to the United States. Now, in order for me to completely relocate, I have to turn down my government pension. Mrs. Kager, I don't think Nick could sneak in. Yeah, I'm not a fly under the radar kind of guy. No, people can. Folks, when me and Mo visited Delphi, Indiana, and we walked into the courthouse, they had these metal detectors. I had to crouch down to get in. If your pension is good, maybe get a vacation home in Georgia. If I work until I'm 65, with the current everything, my government pension will be around $3,000 a month. Hi, Granny. How tall are you? In freedom units, I'm between 6'3" and 6'4". How do you go through TSA at airports? Very, very slowly. Oh. Mrs. K. Grift, hey, but you're in Texas. I've been to Texas many times. Love Texas. Can't the heat and the humidity. It's killing me. But that's very, very nice of you. Very, very nice of you. Now, let's see here. I'm going into land.com in Kentucky. I'm looking for a minimum of 1 acre because I don't like neighbors. Here's one I actually been looking at. While we wait for court to come back, let me show you this, because I found this when I was actually searching for fun. 2.02 acres, $8,000, low-key pass. Low-key pass. And it's been for sale for 6 months. Oh, we're back.
State anything you would like to add, and then Mr. Cruz Mr. Hill, you'll get to respond. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. So one thing that I know that the court has already found that information related to the CODIS hit is relevant. I would also add, just to kind of support that even further, is the fact that there are particular counts of this indictment that reference that April 30th, 2024 date. And so that is necessary because of tolling of the statute of limitations for certain counts in the indictment. So that is a material fact that the state has to prove as well. So that again, I think just supports the idea that this is absolutely relevant evidence related to the CODIS hit and when that hit was generated. The case that I would cite to the court is Watson v. State. That is 337 Georgia Appeal 16. It is a 2016 case. And just so the court understands kind of the procedure or the procedural posture in Watson, I guess the argument was that trial counsel was ineffective for not objecting to information about CODIS being brought into the trial. And which is obviously different than the situation we're in here.
Yeah,
I think that the language
it's
is still
fucking
helpful.
different.
And Watson says
Means it can't
stands for
be
the
applied.
proposition that evidence of that a defendant's DNA profile is included in a database compiled would reflect badly on the defendant's character if the DNA profile or references to the database linked the defendant to criminal activity. And so the state has been very clear. We have instructed our witnesses very clearly to not refer to it as anything to do with criminal activity, just that it is a known database, or let's see, a national database of known DNA profiles. Watson also says that there are other ways that a profile might get into CODIS, of missing persons, evidence collected at crime scene. So it's not just offenders whose profiles go into CODIS, but we're not even going to get into that. Just the fact, and again, our witnesses have been explicitly instructed to refer to it only as a national database of known DNA profiles with nothing further. So I think that under Watson, because we're not in any way, shape, or form attempting to link it to Mr. Faust's criminal activity, then there's no issue.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cruz.
Yes, ma'am. I would say, based on the state's case, I haven't read the case, but I think it supports our position. It is linking Mr. Faust to criminal activity. They're saying the basis of this entire prosecution is based on Mr. Faust's DNA, supposed DNA being present in Ms. Baker's body, Your Honor. The entire piece of the testimony from Mr. Howell that's anticipated is to state.
Yeah, reading Watson v. State, and it seems like that was during the state's questioning of a witness when CODIS was brought up. This is not the case here. This was during defense questioning. So already there, it's a different case that does not apply here.
That we previously had your DNA, or do you know how we previously had your DNA? Prison itself is linking them to criminal activity. Well, excuse me, let me clarify that. The only reason the state will previously have Mr. Faust's DNA is through incarceration or felony conviction, as the Honorable Court is aware. But they are also using that DNA with the CODIS to state that, hey, this is how we connected Mr. Faust to this crime. So that's my position, Your Honor. I do not have any additional case law. I figured the Honorable Court would, I leave it to the discretion of the Honorable Court, but I would say without reading the case that I believe from what was proffered, it supports our position. Secondly, the standard, as the Honorable Court knows, of effective assistance of counsel is very, very high. So in regards to the court's ultimate finding on that case, it has to be looked at the standard. As the Honorable Court is aware, on the trial level, the presumptions are in favor of the defendant.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. All right. I first want to respond to both parties this way, as I sort of did before I left the bench. And that is, in the arena of this case, both parties questioned the jury about submitting DNA to other sites, right?
I did not.
Okay.
I,
You may have followed up with questions.
no, I
about it.
didn't follow. I didn't
Okay.
talk about submitting DNA to sites
Okay.
at all with the jury.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cruz. I'm stand corrected. Then it was just the state. There were no objections, but it was just the state. But my point about all of that is that there was discussion in voir dire, okay, by the state, that referred to whether persons had submitted DNA for well-known sites. I mentioned the ones that came to the top of my mind. I don't remember if you all did this in jury questioning or not. I'd have to look at my notes. But of course, Ancestry.com, it's 23andMe.
Again, that's not on the record. That's not.
Not 21andMe. I don't know where I came up with that number. And things of that nature. And so I say that again to, I think that is a background of how it is certainly possible for the jury to recognize a CODIS database as being just a database like any other. There's been no evidence in a...
If there's only a possibility, then you have to err on the line of caution for the defense, if it's only a possibility.
In addition to that, in this trial, that the CODIS database is necessarily only linked to persons who have been incarcerated in the prison system. All right. That being said, the reason I left the bench is because I wanted to look at what the law says. And that is what is going to dictate this court's direction. It's what the law says. The law is clear, but I want to explain what the law is. But the law is clear that it is allowed. The law is very clear in this state that what this state is seeking to introduce is permitted. That's in Scales versus the state, 310 Georgia App 48, a 2011 case. It is still good law. The interesting language in this case, and I'm reading it to all of you, and I'm going to actually read some comments from a law review article that sort of mimics this case to tell you how I'm going to tailor or order that this evidence is tailored. I'm going to allow it, but we're going to do some tailoring. This is what the case says, which is Scales. Evidence that a defendant's DNA profile is included in a database compiled by a state or federal government agency would reflect badly on the defendant's character if the DNA profile or references to the database linked the defendant to criminal activity. Therefore, we hold that evidence of a matching DNA profile in a government database does not, in and of itself, constitute impermissible character evidence when no reference is made as to why the matching sample was collected or stored, and when no reference is made linking the defendant's DNA profile to other criminal activity. Other states have reached similar conclusions, and that's the law. So in looking at the law in the state of Georgia, I wanted to just see what else was out there in the brief moments that we had. There is a law review article that is, I'm looking for the date, that is from December of 2025, so a very recent article. And I'll just read it to you all, just so I don't have to summarize it in my own words. In cold hit cases, prosecutors may wish to introduce evidence to the jury regarding how the defendant came to the attention of investigators. Specifically, the prosecutor may feel that the jury will wonder why a particular suspect was selected in the absence of testimony regarding the database search. This sentiment may be especially acute in long, dormant, cold hit cases in which a great deal of time elapses between the offense and the prosecution. Generally speaking, defendants have sought to preclude such testimony. Occasionally, trial courts grant such motions, typically made on Rule 403 prejudice or Rule 404B character grounds, as you have made, Mr. Cruz, and allow the prosecutor only to elicit testimony such as that the defendant came to the investigator's attention as a suspect. However, the majority of appellate courts that have reviewed denials of motions on this basis have been upheld. Scales versus the state, which I just mentioned to both of you, to all of you, is typical of the handful of courts that have addressed the issue and that the court declared, quote, that evidence of a matching DNA profile in a government database does not in and of itself constitute impermissible character evidence when no reference is made as to why the matching sample was collected or stored, and when no reference is made linking the defendant's DNA profile to other criminal activity. And so I wanted to just read that to you. I mean, I realize law review articles are not law, but it does support the case that the court feels is appropriate to rely on. So I'm going to allow the question, but we're going to limit the question in this manner. We're going to narrowly tailor the state's ability to present this evidence. First of all, the only permissible reference to CODIS is going to be with the words that it is a national database, not a government national database, a national database. I want to pause here for a moment and also say this, that we looked at a few other cases in the country that were cold cases, as we all have been discussing, out of the presence of the jury, as to whether this issue came up. And the evidence in several of those cold cases was that the defendant's DNA profile was collected using the mediums that I have described were mentioned during jury selection. They were collected using Ancestry.com and 23andMe and other DNA, other agencies that collect DNA. And those cases were referred to as national databases, but they were not criminal in nature. They were not CODIS, but they were national databases. So I think the reason I want to mention that is I think it supports my feeling earlier that I articulated to all of you that, well, my sense of the evidence that I articulated to you all earlier, that there has been no mention that the general public understands that CODIS in and of itself is a government national database that deals only with people who are incarcerated. There are a lot of national databases, so to speak, that are in the public realm that I think it's fair to say the public can look at as all being the same. There's been no evidence in this trial to suggest that CODIS is only for defendants. So I just want to mention that. All right. So let's go back to tailoring the state's question. If the state seeks to elicit this information, it has to be as a national database, not a national government database. There will be no questioning unless the defense decides to do it as to what CODIS is, other than just articulating that it is a national database. I am making a finding under 403 that it doesn't violate 403. I mean, I certainly don't disagree that a lot of relevant evidence is prejudicial. I mean, that is the law. That is, there's an argument to be made that all evidence is prejudicial. The question is whether 403 is violated, and 403, of course, is relevant evidence may be excluded if its probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, confusion of the issues, or misleading the jury, etc. And based on the law that the court is using, which is Scales versus the state, I'm making a finding that 403 is not violated. And so I'm going to allow you to ask that question with that instruction.
Your Honor, if I could just preview for the court the question that I would ask to make sure that I'm in compliance with the court's order. Anytime that we make reference to, and I can only think of 2 times really during the direct examination when this will come up. The first time would be when we're talking to Agent Howell about how it is that Mr. Faust entered as a suspect in the case. And then the second time would be, as I referenced earlier, during the playing of the interview, asking him immediately before Mr. Faust made the statement, did you reference his DNA being in a national database of known DNA samples? And that's the same way that I would ask that question to Agent Howell as far as how Mr. Faust entered the investigation. And I'll ask it in a leading manner to try to control it as much as possible. Your Honor, I would ask Agent Howell, did Mr. Faust come to y'all's attention as a suspect in the case based on the presence of his DNA in a national database of known DNA samples.
Well, before I say anything, Mr. Cruz, do you care to respond to Mr. Yellowman-Chili's proffer of how he's going to ask the questions?
Stop the question at known DNA database because Mr. Howell is in the courtroom, so he knows exactly what the question is seeking to elicit.
Well, and that's important, so he knows how to answer it and not violate the court's rule, but sure.
Since he knows how to answer, can we just stop it at national database?
I thought that was the end of your question.
Well, he said that
A national-
known DNA profile. But we can just stop it at national database. Mr. Howell knows the testimony that's suspected. Just trying
Okay, okay.
I understand the court was trying to limit any potential prejudice.
I understand. Would you like to respond to Mr. Cruz's request?
Well, I'm just trying to establish that it's a national database of DNA. And
I
so
think that's the
how,
best way to say it.
Okay.
I'm going to just say this, Mr. Cruz. I'm going to grant your motion. I think the best way to say it is a national database of DNA.
My request was just stopping it at national.
I understand. So I'm sort of granting your request, I suppose, in part, and I'm granting the state's request in part. I'm not going to, I think it is appropriate to limit even the end of the sentence as Mr. Cruz has asked. You are going to say no national database of known DNA profiles. The best way to say it is a national database of DNA.
yes, Judge.
Period. All right, so I'm gonna grant your motion in part and overrule it in part. I'm going to grant your motion in part and overrule it in part to elicit that information. You do have your agent here, I know that, and he's allowed to be in the courtroom based on the statutes, but I'm going to give you a second to talk to Agent Howell and make sure that you all are on the same page. And is there anything else we need to talk about though before we bring the jury in?
I need to proffer two things on the record, if that's
Okay.
okay.
Of course.
And I'm just proffering for the record, Your Honor. In regards to the testimony of Elizabeth Bigham yesterday, in regards to the court's ruling about Mr. Faust's living situation and the address he stayed at in the weekend of Ms. Baker's death, the expected testimony would have been that Ms. Bigham, based on her review of the case file, would have known that Mr. Faust stayed at Knollwood Apartments.
Hold on a second, Mr. Cruz. What are you proffering a question you're going to ask?
No. So yesterday I didn't do it, but I was supposed to, anytime testimony is excluded or evidence is excluded, I believe pursuant to Rule 103, and I can check my notes, I'm supposed to proffer the excluded evidence into the record for appellate review. So that's all I'm doing.
Okay, well, I think that is untimely at this time. If you care to call Agent Bigham back on cross-examination and you want to bring up those comments, then you certainly can do so. But I think now it is untimely.
You allowed the prosecution to go back in time the other day, but now you're not allowing Miss Judge. The next witness has not taken the stand yet. This could have been this, taking this up now, and 3 minutes after she left the stand, doesn't matter. Because in the transcript, the next witness hasn't taken the stand. That's a shit argument.
Okay. Question for you. With Mr. Howell, I do intend to ask him a general question. I want to make sure it doesn't violate the court's order.
All right.
Can I ask him generally, was he aware of any information suggesting that Mr. Faust did not stay at 350 Cooper Road on the weekend of Ms. Baker's death? Is that a permissible question for them to report?
Before I answer that, I'm going to let the state respond, if you care to respond.
As long as it's information that draws on his personal knowledge, I think that he could ask that question, Judge.
I mean, I sort of agree with the state. I mean, I think in and of itself, again, that question is not necessarily impermissible. If the manner in which you ask it or the manner in which the witness responds is indicative of an objection that the state needs to make, I'll hear it. But it just in and of itself, the question you've asked is not prohibitive of any ruling the court has made.
Sure.
That's what you're asking.
Yes, ma'am. And just to make sure, it's undisputed that Mr. Howell was an agent of the state. In the event that he says no, I would move to impeach him by contradiction. And the impeachment material would be the document that I showed the state yesterday.
Okay.
And that's why I want to ask to make sure that's
Okay. Well, if we have to get to that, we'll get to that. And I'll certainly take up any arguments that may need to be taken up at the time. If I have to send the jury out, I will. I don't want to make, this is a pretty nuanced argument that you all are making. And I think it's making it in a vacuum is not something the court can consider at this time. If you ask a question that the state objects to, I'll hear it and we'll talk about it. And if you all want me to send the jury out to do that, I'll certainly do that. But the answer to your initial question about that particular question in and of itself is not violative of any ruling the court has made.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Your Honor, I was patiently waiting my turn about the DNA stuff because
Okay.
I also have a witness this morning that will testify about CODIS, and she's
Okay.
not in here right now,
Right,
and I
of
want to make
course.
sure that she is instructed,
Okay.
consistent with the court's ruling as to how to answer. I will again inform her that CODIS is to be referred to as a national database of DNA pursuant to what the court just articulated. In fact, I would also intend on, just to avoid any potential for confusion, ask that in the form of a leading question to her.
Okay.
Now, with this particular witness, the state had intended to go a little bit further, and I would like to flesh that out before, outside the presence of the jury. This particular witness, Ms. Sims with the State Crime Lab, is familiar with how many known profiles are in the database, and I had intended on eliciting that from her. I mean, I would still intend to, unless the court tells me not to. And then, so that's the first thing. And then
I'll let you respond, Mr. Cruz. Don't worry. Let me let him go through his argument, and then I'll let you respond.
And then, so Ms. Sims is the forensic biologist who obtained the profile from the sexual assault kit that was eligible to be uploaded into CODIS. And so my intended question to her would be that once an item is entered into CODIS, what happens? The answer that I expect her to give would be something to the effect of, it is compared on a routine basis to other profiles found in the database. And that would be the extent of it.
Okay.
So again, I thought it made sense to bring that up now, since we were talking about CODIS and DNA and all that. And I certainly want to have this witness prepared to answer in a way that would not be inconsistent with the court's rulings. I can do that. I just, again, she's not in here right now. So I thought this was a good chance to raise that issue.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz.
I would just ask that it's similarly limited in scope. What I would ask in regards to Ms. Sims' testimony, if the state and the Honorable Court agrees, wants to get that she made the extraction to make it an identifiable DNA profile, I have no issue with that. But once we get into that a GBI agent is uploading it into a national database, we go from, as the Honorable Court stated, just a national database that could be 23andMe and other sources to inferences that this is a government database that the GBI is using. So I would ask that it's limited.
All right, thank you. I mean, I think the law allows what the state is asking, and so I'm going to allow you to do that. I think the tailoring you're asking for, Mr. Cruz, is not supported by the law. Whatever inference, if an inference is made by the jury about why an agent may have had access to the database, is an inference that is not supported by the evidence, and it's not going to be allowed by the evidence. I mean, you haven't said there's going to be testimony as to why the GBI agents, of course, had access to the database. I think that would not be something that's permissible based on this discussion and my ruling. So I understand what you're saying, but it's not supported by the law in this case. So I'm going to allow you to ask that question. I do think that is permissible under scales. It is important, certainly, to instruct your witness. Let me ask this question. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to wait until that witness is called?
I think we could wait, Your Honor.
Okay,
But,
okay.
Again, since we were all talking about CODIS and DNA,
Sure.
I wanted to have,
Okay.
in my mind, what would be permissible under the court's
Okay.
ruling. So not only the fact that it would be routinely compared to other known profiles in the database, but the other question that I had referenced was how many known profiles are in the database.
I understand what you said. I mean, I don't find anything impermissible about that.
Making
Mr.
sure.
Cruz, you didn't respond to that, but if you'd like to, you certainly can.
Look, it was to both, but
Okay,
I do understand
okay,
the Honorable Court's
sure.
ruling.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. I'm going to allow it. I don't find it violative of 403, but certainly I'll let you in one moment, Mr. Yelman-Chile. I know Agent Howell is sitting in the courtroom. He's heard everything the court has said. I'll give you a few minutes to make sure that you all are on the same page about that limitation. Mr. Cruz, I certainly will hear from you, but I want to make sure I don't forget this. The state has asked twice to be able to ask one or two leading questions with regard to this issue of their witnesses. Do you have any objection to that?
At this time, I do not.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify the record. The Honorable Court mentioned 403 as the ground. Our objection was also under 404B, and I understand that it was
Understand.
on both grounds.
Yes, sir. I understand. And I find that it's not violative, but I certainly want to make a finding on the record about 403.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. Is there something else you wanted to raise? All right. If you need a moment with Agent Howell, you can do that, and then we'll bring the jury in. Thank you.
All right, let's check Scales v. State here. This is what they were referencing. Let's see here. In ruling on Scales' motion in limine, the court ordered the state not to make any statement or to elicit any testimony implying that the CODIS database information is culled from offenders or prisoners, and to redact any document that might contain such information, and the state complied. Further, the court directed the state to, quote, draw parallels between the CODIS database and other databases, such as fingerprint databases, and the fact that these databases collect information from various sources. Given that the trial court's order was properly and narrowly tailored to exclude any impermissible character evidence, the trial court did not abuse its discretion in admitting information concerning CODIS and 562 Scales matching DNA profile for the limited relevant purpose of explaining why this 14-year-old case is now being prosecuted and how the information came to focus on the defendant. Scales contends that despite the court's ruling on his motion in limine, inadmissible character evidence in violation of the court's order were nevertheless submitted to the jury over his objection. Scales references testimony from a GBI forensic biologist who was testifying as to the methods used by the GBI State Crime Lab to test, peer review, and then submit its backlog of forensic samples from cold cases to CODIS after receiving a grant for that purpose. The scientist, however, was not commenting on or describing CODIS in any way that violated the court's order, but rather was explaining that, pursuant to the grant, the GBI was required to follow strict guidelines when uploading the GBI's forensic samples into the database. Because Scales has not shown how any testimony specifically violated the court's order, we find no error. So that is... So, in light of the text from Scales, this judge actually narrowed it further. She could have been looser. Sorry, folks. That's Georgia case law. Okay.
But as
I'm going to send the case law to Kat as well. I suspect she will get the question as well.
you all may be seated. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being back here on time. We are getting started a little bit past schedule. I'm sorry for that. But as always, there are things that we need to take up outside your presence. This one took a little bit longer than I had anticipated. I do appreciate your patience. We are ready to begin. We are here to resume the trial of the State of Georgia versus Edric Faust, SU 24 CR 0547. Is the state ready?
State's ready, Judge.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. You may call your next witness, Mr. Yalamanchili.
State calls Agent Jeremy Howell.
Agent Howell?
Yeah, folks, to my understanding at least, you get a law, then you get a case law that, for instance, you have with hearsay and the Miranda rights and everything, and boom, all of a sudden, prosecutors can't work as freely as they want to. And then it takes a few years, and then a case gets to appeal where the prosecution fucked up in clear violation of the new law and the new case law. And the appeals court will tie knots, move the goalposts, and all of a sudden, yeah, but in this specific instance, we will say it was correctly done. And then it will be used on every fucking case. And slowly but surely, it erodes. So now with hearsay, the exceptions makes that rule basically non-existing.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to take an oath. You raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give to the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear and affirm.
If you would, please take a seat, speak towards the microphone, and state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Jeremy Howell. That is Jeremyhowell.
Sir, where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
And how long have you been with the GBI?
I've been with the GBI nearly 15 years.
All right. And what is your current assignment with the GBI?
All right, folks, I saw that Cat Not Williams has gone live. So, folks, I have so much stuff to do. I have so much stuff to do. But I'm going to send you over to her. But before that, this is a GBI agent. He will testify about how excellent he is at doing science stuff. So I'm going to send you off with a song. See you guys, and thank you.
Step right up to the miracle station. We've got justice in a jar on sale. Wave a lab coat, sprinkle Latin, sign your name, then set that scale. Look, a scratch on a screwdriver. Look, a pattern on a shell. Call it tool mark analysis, baby. That's how they send you to a cell. It's a shit science and you know it, but they sell it with a wink and a grin. Draw a line, call it math. Write a number on a latch, then they swear that the truth's locked in. It's science. Showbiz in a lab coat, give the jury one more magic trick to quote. They clap, they sigh while a life goes by on a shit science song and dance they buy. Open wide, says the expert smiling. Let me measure every jagged tooth. Bite mark analysis on a bruise in a photo. They announce they've discovered the truth. Here's a cheat, here's a mold, here's a slideshow. Turn the guess into gospel on a screen. They don't mention all the bodies that this carnival left in between. It's a shit science, and you know it, but they belt it like 11 o'clock tune. They project, they preach, they perform on the stand while a family waits for a June. It's a shit science, glitter on a gravestone. They make certainty from shadows alone. They rhyme might with must, turn maybe to must them on a shit science chorus of trust. Here's a hair in a plastic packet, microscopic match. They shout on cue. They compare, they declare from a single little strand, like a crystal ball come true. Then a tape in a humming courtroom. print an Alice on a squiggle in a graph. They pretend it's a fingerprint sign. You know it, still they stage it with a spotlight glow. Every chart, every slide, just a confident pride. But the stakes are too high for this show. It's a shit science curtain call on bad odds. Time to tear down this cardboard facade. Cause a man could lose his life to a catchy little lie from a shit science.